Hello, everyone. We'll start in a short while. Hello, everyone. Start in a short while. I'm trying to fix the audio because there's a static that I'm
Hello,
hearing.
everyone.
I'm trying to fix the audio because there's a static that I'm hearing. I'm trying to fix the audio because there's a static that I'm hearing. I'm trying to fix the audio because there's a static that I'm hearing. I'm trying to fix the audio because there's a static that I'm hearing. I'm trying to fix the audio because there's a static that I'm hearing. I'm trying to fix the audio because there's a static that I'm hearing. I'm trying to fix the audio because there's a static that I'm hearing. I'm trying to fix the audio because there's a static that I'm hearing. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. There are 5 people watching right now. There are 5 people watching. And we have 10 minutes to go. Let's just test the audio. I hope that the audio is okay. Again, we'll have to rely on the chat box to for me to be able to get feedback from everyone who's watching right now. There are, I think, 6 people watching right now. Thank you for coming, for watching the part 2 of this live stream. May nagtatanong bakit daw ako minsan nakatingin sa kaliwa. Actually, because I have two um, monitors. I'm using 2 laptops. This one, the one I'm looking at right now, where the camera is a laptop that contains the presentation, which I'm using to stream this this video. The other one I'm using mainly because it's more. It tells me. Um, well, I actually monitor the chat from the second laptop. Okay. This one is the one on the left, the one that I'm looking at right now. Is is the is the screen for YouTube actually. I'm monitoring what's happening in YouTube from this monitor. Hi Jesse, happy Valentine's Day. Totoo nga, nanonood si Jesse ng live stream ko. A lot of people are well, not naman wondering. They're curious why I'm doing live streams. The reason for that is because I'm trying to share. I want to share. There are just so many PowerPoint presentations in my laptop and in my, data in my hard drive. And I haven't been able to do training programs in the last maybe 1 year, except for a few. I've been doing online training programs on emotional resilience and some HR topics, but it's not like in the past where I would do a training program practically every week. Thank you, Jesse. Jesse is used to be HR director. He's one of the top trainers in the country today, one of the top speakers. He has an online show called HR Hotline in the new channel. It's streamed primarily in YouTube and in other social media sites. Okay, it's 2:01 on my watch. Let's give it a few more minutes to allow everybody to come in. Right now, I have, based on my screen, it's 5 people watching. Jesse, okay ba yung audio? Wala naman tayong problema sa audio. Wala na yung feedback. Kanina kasi may feedback akong naririnig eh. Tess, okay ba yung audio? Are you still there? People who are watching, is the audio okay? Wala bang annoying feedback or annoying wheezing sound or whatever? Okay naman, loud and clear. Thank you. Hi, Michelle Planilla. Hi. Thank you for tuning in, Michelle. Angels High, loud and clear. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Just 2 more minutes and we'll start. We'll officially start. But I hope you guys are okay. I hope you are. How's your Valentine's Day? Michelle, kumusta Valentine's? Nandito ba husband mo? Tess, kumusta ang Valentine's ng iyong tall, handsome, dark hubby? Wala, Michelle. Wow. Nasa barko? Oo, Tess, importante, importante magkasama kayo in spirit at saka magkasama ang mga puso ninyo kahit nasaan kayo. Hi, Ilet. Thank you again for tuning in and thank you for recommending this video to other people in systems. Oh, okay. Pareho tayo, Tess. Pareho tayo ng situation, Tess. Yung mga mahal natin sa buhay, nasa kanya-kanyang pamilya na ng lockdown. Angel Sai, happy Valentine's. Okay, sige. So, again, thank you everyone. Happy Valentine's Day and happy Valentine's Day to all your loved ones and all your family members. Okay. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening to people who will be watching this live stream maybe days from now because this live stream will be posted in YouTube as a video. So you can actually just refer this to your friends or to your relatives. It will forever be there. Parang wala daw forever except yung nasa internet kasi forever na talaga yun. Okay, so if you have friends or relatives or if you want to watch this again, you can always do so because the video will always be in my YouTube channel. Okay, and you can always, like I said, recommend this to your friends afterwards. Okay, so but thank you everybody for tuning in today live. Sabi ko nga sa mga nagtatanong kung ano yung advantage ng live of attending or tuning in during a live stream is because we can interact with each other. If you feel like you need to ask questions, just chat, just give me a chat. Just type it in the interaction in the channel box, in the chat box, okay? And I'll be happy to answer them because I try to monitor them. Okay, nag-video call kami. That's great, Tess. Ngayon, no, ang laki na ng pinagbago kasi nung isipin nyo nung college ako at saka even nung tatrabaho ako nung 90s, mahal makipag-LDR kasi you have to call long distance. Okay? Ngayon, wala na. Time and distance are not issues anymore. Kasi nga, the internet allows you to interact with each other across time and space. Okay? In a much, much cheaper way. Okay. Anyway, I believe one of my passions is learning. Okay. If one word that describes me very well is that I'm a teacher more than anything else. In fact, when I was very young, when I was asked, as kids are asked, okay, what do you want to be when you grow up? I had a pretty clear picture of what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I would always tell people, I want to be a teacher. Maybe when I was young, that was because most of my role models, my grandmother was a teacher, my mother was a teacher. Actually, I was born when my mom was practice teaching. okay, to become a teacher. And because I was quite a precocious kid, I had a lot of whys. Okay, um, my mom would bring me to school. Okay, and that's why I started grade one at a very, very, very early age. I started grade one at 4 years old. Okay, um, and then saling pusa lang yon, saling pusa. Kasi my mom was a teacher. But my grandfather, who was a district supervisor, decided to promote me to grade 2 kasi sabi niya, mabubore yung bata. Pag grade 2 siya, tapos pareho, pag grade 1 siya ulit next year, alam niya na yung pinag-aaralan ng mga classmates niya, mabubore siya. Baka masira yung motivation to learn because my grandfather noticed that I was really interested in learning, that I was passionate about reading and things like that. So I was the boy who was always reading. Okay, always, always, always reading. Okay, so anyway, I decided to start with these quotes because it's important to highlight that the capacity to learn is actually a gift because a lot of people don't actually learn. They are very experienced, they go through a lot of experiences, and they repeat the same experience over and over and over again, and yet do not seem to learn from their experiences. That's why being able to translate experience to a learning experience is a gift actually, but the ability to learn, and some people learn quickly, okay, is also a skill that you need to learn. Okay, and one of the things that we'll talk about, for example, today is how to mind mapping. Okay, because it's a skill that I tried to learn. Okay, and I was amazed that once I've gotten the hang of it, I never ever went back to the old way of taking down notes, which is, alam mo yung laundry list, yung lahat sinusulat mo in sentences. Nung na-discipline ko yung utak ko to take notes using a mind map, concepts, pictures, drawing arrows, drawing shapes, coloring them, mas mabilis yung pag-pick up at saka retention ng pinag-aaralan ko. That's why when I go to conferences, when I attend live streams, when I attend, training programs, I always take notes using a mind map, using illustrations, and things like that, no. That's a skill, okay? But I've noticed nga mas mabilis ang pick up, mas mabilis ang mas matagal ang retention kung I'm using a mind map. Okay. The willingness to learn is a choice because some people just don't want to learn. Okay. Now, for example, I'm amazed at the people, for example, who are here on a Sunday, Michelle, Ilet, the other people, Marites, because you could watch a Korean novela instead. But you chose to be here to learn. And that's admirable in people. The willingness to learn is always a choice because there's always something new you can learn every day from life. And I truly believe that every time I'm asked to speak at the graduation, as a commencement speaker, and always accept those, by the way, because it's a great opportunity to challenge the minds of people who are at the cusp of, they're crossing a threshold when you're graduating, and it's important that that they're able to imbibe some wisdom from somebody. And I always take that opportunity. I always tell them there's only one diploma that you get in this world. There's only one real diploma that you get in this world, and that's your death certificate. No, until then, you cannot say that you've stopped learning and that you've learned everything that you need to learn, because there's always something new to learn from everybody. And I learned this from my favorite professor when I was in college. She told me, the mark of an intelligent person is when he or she is able to look at anybody straight in the eye and be able to say, I can learn something from this person. It doesn't matter who the person is. It doesn't matter what the stature of the person is. He can be a beggar. She can be a sex worker. She can be an ordinary peddler in the street. There's always something new you can learn from everybody. It's not true that you can only learn from people who are who are much more advanced in educational qualifications than you. Hindi po totoo yun. There's always something new you can learn from everybody. Okay? Because the world is always teaching. If you're not willing to learn, no one can help you. Okay? Like it's a door that can only be opened from the inside. If you don't want to learn, there's really, no one in this world can really help you. But if you are determined to learn, if you really want to learn, no one can stop you. Okay. I've just realized that all this time you've been looking at a PowerPoint presentation instead of looking at me. Okay, so okay. Happy Valentine's Day. We're in our library. Finally, we've been able to clear. If you're one of those people who keep track of my videos, of my videos in this channel, I had a video on a house tour nung baba lang. Okay, it took me like what 3 months, 4 months before I was able to actually do a house tour, despite the request being done. Matagal lang may nag-request, 3 tao na. Pa-house tour naman kasi interesado kami makita yung mga collections mo, paano sila nakadisplay sa loob ng bahay. Hi, Roderick Espinosa. Rod is all the way from Zamboanga, I think, or somewhere. Rod, are you in Zamboanga or in Batanes or somewhere there? Okay. So I was saying, we couldn't show you the second floor where the library is kasi nga, ang dami-dami niyang boxes galing sa mga books, galing sa office ko when I retired, or alam mo, I'm a pack rat kasi, so mga manuals, when I attend training programs, I keep those manuals, no. Ingit na ingit ako dun sa mga kaibigan ko na once they've learned it, they can, like if they've used a manual, they can already throw it away. Okay. So Roderick is from Zamboanga City. Okay. Hi, Roderick. Okay. Sige. So we're in our library. I'm displaying some of my favorite plants. My other passion since the quarantine started is gardening. I've been really passionate about plants. And it's strange kasi I've now become my parents actually. My dad was a farmer, but when I was young, when I was growing up, I really never was interested. We had a vegetable garden in our farm, but I was just reading the whole time. Okay, my mom was had a fantastic green thumb. Kahit anong yung mga tinanim niya, yung mga monstera sa bahay, sa awa ng Diyos, ang lalaki na talaga, nakadikit sa mga puno sa bahay. Okay, sa farm. Kaya nga pag nakakita ko ng monstera dito, yung dragon's tail, yung mga ganun, ang mahal, gusto sabihin, Diyos ko, sa farm namin, walang kwenta yan. Minsan tinatabas lang yan ng tatay ko pag naiinis siya sa parang gubat na. Anyway, but this is a Calathea orbifolia. Di nakatiis eh. Okay. This is a Calathea that I really, really, really like. Okay. I like this because of its variegation. This is a Calathea orbifolia. Okay. Anyway, sige. So let's now start with our with part 2 of our writing course. Okay. Hi, Auntie Dusing. Kumusta po? Happy Valentine's. Okay, like I said, for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, my name is Bong Ostero. I used to be a columnist for the Manila Standard, and I did that for like 12 years, more than 11 years. I've published books. I've edited a number of magazines and publications. I've been an editor since I was in high school, and I conduct a number of training programs. I continue to write speeches as a ghostwriter for some politicians and some business leaders. Okay, just a quick review. We said that the ability to write will always make a major difference in your life and in your career. I've always believed this. If you know how to write clearly, you will always be different you'd always have a competitive edge over other people who don't know how to write. You will always be asked to express something in writing, because people always equate the ability to write effectively with somehow with intelligence. Okay, with it's some people think it's a distinct competency. Okay, and therefore it's not accidental that the people who rise faster in terms of their careers or who rise to leadership positions quickly or faster are better communicators. This is not accidental. Your ability to write effectively will always make a major difference in your life. Whether you're talking about leadership, we're talking about salesmanship, we're talking about customer service, we're talking about politics. The ability to write effectively will always be a source of competitive edge. Like you said, the last week, the one of the major problems that people have, okay, as a writer is that we tend to write using a heavy style. In fact, we see this practically every single time. You see this all over. Okay, there's just so many articles, many memos, many reports that are written in very heavy style. Okay, it doesn't have to be that way, but like we discussed last week, this is because many people think this is actually a way they're supposed to write, that this is the standard of good writing. Hindi po totoo yun. Okay, in fact, if you are to ask me what is the standard of good writing, I would tell you that the standard of good writing is journalism. The by just looking at the headline, you actually know the story. Okay, and if you want to know more, you read the lead paragraph, the first paragraph, and you can stop reading. Okay, but if you want more details, you can actually continue. And we'll discuss that in greater detail because this is one of the practical tips that I will share with you this afternoon. But that's actually the organizing part of writing already. But, I always maintain that, the mark of a good writing is that good writing reads naturally. Okay. Good writing reads naturally. When the writing does not call attention to itself, when you don't even notice the writing, when you are so focused on the ideas, trying to understand the ideas, when you become so engrossed, okay, in the plot, like the words and sentences, they're just incidental. Pang hindi na siya importante. You're just in hurry to get to the next page to find out what's happening, what's going to happen next. And the words and sentences, they affect you. They affect you. Okay, because they tickle you, they make you laugh, they make you excited, they make your hearts, your heart rate, your heart just beats a lot faster, and all of these things, they affect you. Okay, but you don't notice the words and sentences anymore, because what you notice, what you tend to focus on are the ideas. Okay, or you focus on the ideas, you focus on the plot, you focus on the story. So good writing reads naturally. Yung pag nagbabasa ka, hindi mo iniisip na, Diyos ko, ano ba naman to si kung sino man yon, no? Bakit ganito? Bakit ganyan siya magsulat? Okay? Halatang halata talaga siya na siya ang nagsulat. When the writing does not call attention to itself, to me, that's the best example of good writing. Okay. Now, good writing is also easy to read. Good writing must be easy to read. Yung hindi mo kailangan mag-take ng paracetamol pagkatapos, yun yung good writing. Minsan kasi may mga libro talaga, naalala ko nung college ako, pag may isa akong kaibigan, sabi niya, ito ang librong ito, kailangan mong basahin, may katabi kang paracetamol. Kasi ang sakit niya sa ulo pagkatapos. O while you're reading it, pang sumasakit yung ulo mo. Kasi ang hirap-hirap niyang basahin. And I must tell you, there are books that I struggled through because they required reading, or because I know that what they were saying was great. Okay, but so I had to struggle through them, but they were not easy to read. And I wish that the writers, were more considerate of the readers, because it's the writer's job to make sure that they're understood, because readers don't have a choice on the matter. Their only choice is limited to whether reading it or not reading it. Okay? Mahirap pagbanggit ng brand kasi Jessie eh. Although, kaibigan naman natin si Amy Centeno, Asia Director ng Unilab, okay, may pagbanggit ng brand ng paracetamol. Kung totoo yan, there are books that really require paracetamol to read. Okay, good writing is easy to read and it must be easy to understand. And those are two different things, okay? So, if you are to ask me what is the first objective of any kind of writing, it will have to be this, clarity. If what you're trying to say is, you know, I'm giving you 2 apples and 1 banana and 7 peaches, that's exactly what the reader should get. But because if the reader got, you're giving me 7 watermelons and, you know, and other kinds of fruits, then communication has not happened, because what was conveyed was not the one that was received. No? So clarity, if it's not achieved, then communication has not worked. And we go back to this model. This is the Osgood Schramm model in communications. And I like this particular model mainly because it illustrates the 2 important points of the communications process. And this is, the first one is that encoding. Ideas do not exist as words and sentences. They do not exist as words and sentences. The things that we're trying to say, they exist as pictures. They exist as feelings. They exist in our minds or in our hearts as, you know, they're not words and sentences. What writers do, what senders do, okay, the sender in the communications process is encode, translate the idea into words and sentences. And there are a million ways to encode a particular message. For example, the message can be, I'm sorry. It can be as simple as I'm sorry, but people can encode I'm sorry differently. Some people, they don't know how to say I'm sorry in those words. You know, some people, they just give you a gift, I'm sorry na yon. Some people, they're just much nicer to you. I'm sorry na yon. Diba? And some people, they give you a speech just to say I'm sorry without saying I'm sorry. You know, like they say things like, alam mo naman, walang perfectong tao, minsan may nagkakamali, kaya minsan may mga nagagawa tayong hinlabag sa kalooban natin. Sana pag mga ganon, yung they're not able to say I'm sorry, pero yung lahat ng sinasabi nila, I'm sorry na yon. So we can always encode a message differently. So we have control over the words and sentences. And this is very important for everybody to understand when they're writing. There is no one correct way to write or to express a concept. Okay, you may be writing about the theory of relativity, or you can be writing about how to bake a cake, or you can be writing about, you know, what are the different ways to kill someone. And there will be a different way to express that depending on, you know, the background of the person and the preferences of the writer. At pagdating naman dun sa kabila, sa reader o sa receiver of the message, they also decode the message based on how they understood it. And you know, when I was teaching communications process, I always, yung mga estudyante ko kinikilig pag nagkukwenta ko sa ganun, no? Na yung some people, you know, you give them flowers, kasi Valentine's ngayon. Okay, naalala ko yung my best friend, okay, na itatago natin sa pangalang Ging. Okay. Sorry na. There was a time, I hope she doesn't kill me for sharing this. There was a time, nagpapaalala siya sa husband niya. Sinasabi niya, oy, Valentine's bukas, Valentine's next week. Wag mo kong padadalhan ng ng flowers sa office kasi di ba, like tinutukso ka kasi pag pinapadalhan ka ng flowers. But actually, what she was trying to say is, she was trying to remind her husband not to forget to send flowers. Kasi siyempre, nahiya naman siyang sabihin na padalhan mo ako ng flowers, kaya nagpa-cute siya. Sinabi niyang, na hindi naman kailangan padalhan ng flowers. Pero kinikwento niya yung ibang office mates siya, nakakatagap ng flowers, kinikilig. So, sinasabi niyang siya, hindi naman, di ba? Parang ayaw niya. Yung, ano tawag na doon? Ano ang tawag doon sa Sa pakipot. Okay, so, nung nag-Valentine's, wala nga siyang natanggap na bulaklak sa husband niya. So pag uwi niya, siya pinagtampo siya, sinabi niya sa husband niya, ano ka ba naman? Siyempre, pakipot lang yun. So the following day, nakatanggap na finally siya ng bulaklak sa husband niya. Nagalit na naman siya kasi sabi niya sa husband niya, alam na tuloy ng lahat na nakalimutan mo. Di ba? O tinukso tuloy siya na baka kaya siya nakatanggap bigla ng bulaklak kasi yung siguro inaway niya yung husband niya. O kaya, usually kasi pag nakatanggap ka ng bulaklak ng after Valentine's, it means you're the number 2. Okay, or whatever. So, yun, in case talaga of encoding the message in a way na akala mo yun ang gusto mong iparating, yun ang hindi ganun yung pagkakadecode nung nakatanggap ng message. Okay, so clarity is a very important factor in writing, in any kind of writing. And they said, what you say is different from how you say it. So you need to balance the two things. Right? And this is very important because if you're trying to say something very complicated, as in, ang hirap-hirap ng kailangan mong iparating sa tao. So sabihin na lang natin, yung gusto mong sabihin is too complicated that requires, let's say, 90% of the reader's attention or 90% of the reader's energy to understand. Okay? So, kung 100% lang ang meron ang readers, that means he only has 10% to understand the words and sentences. Eh, paano if you wrote it in a way that requires 50% energy just to understand the words and sentences? So words and sentences pa lang yun, ha? Anong ibig sabihin ng aggrandize, kasi ang alalalim ng words mo. Tapos the writing requires 90% energy for comprehension. Communication will not work. Hindi lang paracetamol lang kailangan doon, no? Mas matinding painkiller ang kailangan doon. Okay? Pangpilay ng kailangan mo doon na paracetamol. Anyway, so what you write is different from how you write it. And if there's something that I hope you remember from this course, I hope that's it, no? That what you write is different from how you write it. Okay, last week we started talking about the 10 practical advice in writing. I tried to put together what I felt are the important things to remember about writing. What are the 10 important? What are the things that are important that can serve as a guide for all of those who are trying to improve their craft as a writer? I tried to put them together in 10 practical tips. And last week we focused on the first 5. Okay, now at this point I want to highlight something, a word of caution. The advice, the 10 practical tips, the advice that I'm sharing with you today applies to all kinds of writing that is meant to convey information, that is meant to explain something, or this is what's called expository writing by many people. Okay. However, the advice may not be applicable if you are trying to write the great American novel. Okay, if you're trying to write a literary short story, okay, where the plot line is important. Yung kailangan mo mag-build ng suspense o ng intrigue at may tinatago ka. And therefore, like, if you read certain authors like Jose Gabriel Marquez, Garcia, okay, may mga books talaga na they're written in a particular way because the way they're written is also meant to convey the emotion, like sentences that are composed of, that encompass 6 pages. Kasi gusto nang iparating ng writer, for example, na nakahiga siya habang sinusulat yon. Okay? Whatever, no? If that is important to you, okay. But, ilan lang naman yon sa atin. Aminin natin, like 2%, 1% of the population would be interested in that kind of writing. Okay. But for most kinds of writing that we do, the kind that we do for work or for school, they're really just um, expository writing, no? So the writing that's about trying to convey important messages, whether you're writing an ordinance or you're making an announcement or even love letters, okay? They're really about conveying information. So anyway, so these were the first 5 practical advice. We already talked about this, and those who are tuning in for the first time, please, you can review the first 5. The video is available in my YouTube channel. You can just click on the video, and you can catch up. Okay. Hi, Cecil Cruz. How are you? Hi, Ruby Cañete. Okay. Today we're going to finish our first lesson on writing. We'll talk about the other 5 practical advice on writing, which are 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Before we do that, let's just do in the spirit of Valentine's Day, and to make sure that you're not bored, and just to energize everybody else, let's do a short quiz. These are 10 of the top 50 songs of the century. Okay, so when after year 2000, people tried to come up with what were the top 100 or top 50 songs written during the century. Okay, so these 10 songs were part of the top 50. But they're now written in gobbledygook. In other words, they've been deliberately written in a heavy style. Okay, so let's see who can guess. Number 1, what's the title of the song? Okay, so that it might help if you please write in the chat box your guess. Don't worry, you're not going to be booted out of the classroom if you guess incorrectly. So it's written in gobbledygook. In other words, using heavy words. The original words have been changed into heavy words. Okay, but the heavy words represent the title of the song. So for example, the first song was sung by this iconic lady named Judy Garland. Okay. Anyone? Please write in the chat box what your answer is. Ano kayang kanta ito? At a specific place across a kaleidoscopic spectrum. Anyone? Kung nasa Manila lang tayong lahat, yung winner makakatanggap sana ng prize. Kaya lang, we're across. I know some people are watching from Cebu. Some people are watching from Zamboanga. Anyone? Hey, come on, guys! What's the answer to the first one? Anong kanta to? Please type in the chat box. Anong kanta ito? Sung by Judy Garland. It's a song about a specific place across a kaleidoscopic spectrum. Jesse Rebustilio, 1 point. Somewhere over the rainbow. Ayun. Hirap, no? Somewhere over the rainbow lang naman pala. Bakit kailangan sulatin ng ganon? Which illustrates an important point about, I think this is not I think, this is actually one of the top advice. Okay. Sige, so let's go back. Number 2 now, please. Question about the depth of second party's devotion. So this song was sung by the Bee Gees. Anyone? What's the answer? Anong kanta kaya ito? It's a question. About the depth. Gaano kalalim. Yung second party means you. Diba? How deep is your love? Yes. Correct. Hi Ram at saka si Isabel Santos. Correct. How deep is your love? That's the answer. Galing! Palakpakan naman natin. Okay, thank you. How deep is your love? Okay. The third song, part of the top 50 songs of the century. Uh, it's a song that talks about how a second party, second person, has mislaid amorous sensitivity. Okay. Si Ilet, delayed ang internet. Ilet, lumipat ka na ng internet provider. Sobrang delayed yung internet mo. Nasa third na kami. Okay. Second person is you, di ba? Okay. Mislaid, meaning nawala. So, the song is by the Righteous Brothers. Come on. Everyone, think. Okay. Number 3, second. Okay, you've lost that love and feeling, Dino Clemente. Okay, that's the answer. You've lost that love. You've lost the loving feeling. Okay, number 4 now. Okay, the supreme, meaning it's you know, the supreme passion, bar none. Okay, pa Muhammad Ali, the supreme, the greatest. By Whitney Houston. Anyone? What's the title of this song? Bar none. Let Him Be Unchained Melody. It's okay. It's the greatest love of all. Okay, correct. The greatest love of all is correct. Number 5. Okay, it's this is a song popularized by the Beatles, but I think the more popular version is the one by Bette Midler. Okay, the more popular version was the one that's more popular today, at least, is the version of Bette Midler. It's a slower version. Hindi po easy, Jude. Entirely means all, diba? All. Actually, this is one of my most favorite songs. Okay, easily this song would be on a top 3 of my list anytime. Okay. Hindi po. Hi, Jojo Aguas. Hello. Hindi po Wind Beneath My... In my life. That's correct. There are places I remember. Okay, in my life. In my life. That's the answer. Okay. The next song, again, written in gobbledygook, number 6, was sung by Whitney Houston, although the original actually was sung by Dolly Parton. Okay. It was a country song first, but then Whitney Houston turned it into a humongous hit. Humongous is just another big word for huge or for big. She turned it into the biggest hit of the century. Okay? Anong song ito? It's a future-based assurance. Okay? Of my eternal affection. Eternal. Okay. Correct. I will always love you. Okay? Yung panlaban sa mga amateur singing contest. I will always love you. Okay. Okay, let's move on. Delayed lang talaga yung iba. Mabagal lang yung internet. Okay. Number 7. Okay, was originally sung by Don McLean. Okay, Don McLean also sang Vincent was one of the songs of Don McLean. Yung original ng katang ito, kinata ni Don McLean. It's actually a song about the odyssey of American music. So it talks about many singers across the history of American music. So tama naman kayo, Cecil Cruz, I Will Always Love You was number 6. Okay. Cecil Cruz, correct! Yay! American Pie, Lester. Okay, hi Lester. Oh, nanonood pa lang yung aking pamangkin, Lester Riantilio from Caloocan. Happy Valentine's, Lester. Happy Valentine's sa iyong sa iyong significant other na hindi nakakalimutang magbigay ng pabulaklak sa iyo. At sana next Valentine mamigay ka na rin ng bulaklak sa kanya. Okay? Nakita ko lang yung post sa Facebook. Okay. So that's American Pie. Okay, that's number 7. Number 8, Declaration of Absconded Coronary Matter in the City of St. Francis. Number 5, All I Need Is a Girl. Hindi. Although tama din naman yan. Okay. Let's move on. Number 8. Number 8 is Declaration of Absconded. Okay. Absconded meaning naiwan, di ba? Or iniwan. Okay. This is a standard song. Mga kumakanta nito sina Vic Soto, mga ganun. Pag nagsiseryoso mga ganun. Sina Michael Bublé. But I think this was original sung by Tony Bennett. Okay. So correct. I Left My Heart in San Francisco. Okay. One of the top, which landed in the top 50 songs of the century. Okay. Dapat yung mga taga-PNB makakasagot nito. Okay? Position yourself vertically adjacent to speaker. Okay? Isabel Santos, correction, I Left My Heart in San Francisco. Number 9 now. Ano yung number 9? Anyone? Wala pa Stand By Me! Yun! Okay? Nakuha ni... Okay. Hindi Linon ni Roderick. Linon Me yung PNB. Okay? Pero yung yung kanta, Stand By You. Malapit sa Linon Me. Okay. Stand By Me. Finally! The number 10 song. Pronouncement of inability to derive fulfillment. Okay. By the Rolling Stones. Okay. So, let's see who gets the last song. Let's see. Sinong makakahula ng tama kung ano yung last song? By the Rolling Stones. Inability to derive fulfillment. Ilet, tama yun? Lean on Me. Oh, tama yung word, satisfaction. Pero ano yung kanta? Yung buong kanta. Tama yung Lester. Ano yung buong kanta? Okay. Yun. I can't get no satisfaction. Okay. Actually, the title, pwede naman satisfaction lang. But the whole phrase is, I can't get no satisfaction. Okay. So, now, ang hirap, no? Pang gusto mong sabihin sa, yung daw, it's easy. Okay, this is what we mean when we say, it's easy to make the simple complicated. Anybody can do it. You just need a thesaurus. It doesn't make anyone intelligent, just because he or she is able to turn something simple into something complicated. Anybody can make a mess out of anything. Okay. However, the other way around, turning the complicated into something simple, into something easy, so easy that most people can easily understand them. Now, yun talaga ang mark of a genius. That's the mark of a thinking person. Okay, so you might ask, okay, now I just have to put on my my professor hat. Okay, sasabihin nyo, bakit si Shakespeare? Okay, why is it being held as an example of great writing? Okay. Ang totoo niyan, Shakespeare precisely wrote plays because he wanted his writing to be accessible to more people. Kaya that's why he chose to write plays. The reason why we can't understand, the reason why it's now harder to understand is because it was written in a completely different time, okay, when language was completely different. Okay, yun yung uso nung panahong yon. That was the way people wrote, okay, English. And so, but like I said, the intention was really to be understood, and that's why he wrote plays to begin with. He wrote tragedies and comedies that were easily, accessible to people. So, but then again, they were written in a language that is now completely different from the way it was at the time. Now, another argument against writing that's not heavy, writing that's meant for people to be understood, is that some people think it's anti-intellectual. Parang hindi naman ako, sayang naman yung pagiging summa cum laude ko, sayang naman yung doctoral degree ko, sayang naman yung 3 master's degree ko. Kung ganun ako magsulat, if I don't show off what I know by my writing. And that's a wrong attitude, because you should show off with ideas, with new ideas, okay? Not with words and sentences. And some people think naman, parang hindi maganda yung mga simple sentences, familiar words, smaller words, parang hindi siya maganda, that they actually lack beauty. On the other hand, that's not true. In fact, it's the simpler words, the smaller words that are more beautiful. For example, tears, the word tears, luha. Sabi nga ng ages, luha. They're very, that the word tears is actually very, very picturesque. In other words, tears. You can actually picture it already. And you can easily rhyme tears with other words. Madaling i-rhyme yun. Okay? Tears, hurt, madaling i-rhyme yun. But you can use the difficult word that also means tears, which is lachrymose secretions. Okay? So that's the scientific term for a tear. Para sa luha, lachrymose secretions. Now, hirap-hirap kayang isulat yung words na yun, lachrymose. That's why a person who is prone to crying, madaling umiyak, okay, is a lachrymose person. Kasi from the word lacrimal gland. Okay, lacrimal gland. Okay. But, who uses lachrymose secretions today? Wala, di ba? So, but anyway, let's just illustrate what I'm trying to say with a clear example. Okay? Which do you think says it better? Okay, this is an actual title of a scientific paper. Okay, last week, okay, I was reading through some scientific journals because I'm trying to write my dissertation. Okay. Um, and I came across a title which struck me. Parang gusto kong sabihin, ano ba? Ano ba problema niyo? Why do you write titles of scientific papers this way? So this is an actual title of a scientific paper. Consequences of erudite vernacular utilized irrespective of necessity. Problems with using long words needlessly. Okay? Ang ibig lang sabihin nun is the dangers of using big words when you don't need them. That's what it really meant, di ba? So parang, bakit hindi na lang yun ang i-title mo? Okay, bakit kailangan mo gumamit ng consequences of erudite vernacular utilized irrespective of necessity? Now, some of you might be thinking, kaya ko namang intindihin yung consequences of erudite vernacular. Kaya ko intindihin yun. Kaya ng powers ko yun. Okay, pero siguro you're one of very few who will. But if you are reading a whole page of writing written this way, using these words, tingnan ko lang kung hindi sasakit ulo mo pag hindi ka humingi ng paracetamol pagkatapos. Okay, sige. So, but it means the same thing. So that's intellectual. So again, intelligence is measured by the ideas with what you're trying to say, not with the words and sentences that you use. Okay, beauty. Okay, this is one of my favorite short stories. This one's written by Manuel Arguilla. We all read this. This was required reading in elementary or high school. No, not elementary. High school or college literature. Panitikan. Okay. Right in the chat box, who among you read How My Brother Leon Brought Home a Wife? This is a short story that we were asked to read when we were in high school or college. So let's a chat box, please. Say yes. Oh, yes, yo. O kung ano man in the chat box. Si Angel, Angel's hi. Mahina yung internet mo, Angel. Okay. Oo, lahat yun hula lang. Tumawa ka naman dun sa iba. Oo, sa satisfaction. Okay. Left my heart in San Francisco. Tama ka naman dun. Okay. Oh, anyone? Were you asked to read How My Brother Leon Brought Home a Wife? Okay, let's just read it first. Okay, for those of you who are wondering, bakit biglang tumahimik? Ba't biglang nawala ako? The answer to that is, kumuha lang po ng tubig. Okay, so, anyway, this is How My Brother Leon Brought Home a Wife, and I picked this particular particular passage because this is my favorite. Second, because this passage is written, or this short story is written in a language that's really easier to understand. Okay, in fact, madaling basahin. Okay, so let's read this passage. This is the first two paragraphs of How My Brother Leon Brought Home a Wife. She stepped down from the carretella of Casilin with a quick, delicate grace. She was lovely. She was tall. She looked up to my brother with a smile, and her forehead was on a level with his mouth. "You are Baldo," she said, and placed her hand lightly on my shoulder. Her nails were long, but they were not painted. She was fragrant, like a morning when papayas are in bloom. and a small dimple appeared momently high on her right cheek. And this is Labang, of whom I have heard so much. She held the wrist of one hand with the other and looked at Labang, and Labang never stopped chewing his cud. He swallowed and brought up to his mouth more cud, and the sound of his insides was like a drum. Now, of course, this is it's a it's very metaphorical, okay, and it's a short story, so there's more to it than what's in the words and sentences. But what I'm trying to illustrate is that it's a beautiful piece of writing that's written using simple sentences and familiar words, okay? And yet they're very, very beautiful. So you cannot argue with me that it's the big words that add beauty to any writing, because that is not correct. Okay, there's another example. Most of the really great poetry, they're actually written in using familiar words, small words, because they're easy to rhyme with. Okay, for example, this is one of the more popular poetry. This one's written by Edgar Allan Poe. This is The Raven. And all the words are actually simple words. There's no big word in the whole thing. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded, nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this and nothing more." Okay, yes, it's from The Raven. And Sha, I'm sure that you learned this also when you were in high school or college. It's a beautiful piece of writing, and it's written in, using simple words. And because the measure of beauty in 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 the selection of words, have to do with onomatopoeia, which is the picture it creates in your mind. Okay, and it's very easy to picture in your mind an image when the word is something that's smaller, like rain, okay, or snow, or clouds, words like that. Um, Anyway, so let's now go back to our lesson for today. So, like I said, in the last Sunday, we talked about the first 5 practical advice. Okay, today we're going to finish the 10 practical advice, and we're going to discuss the 6. Okay, the 6 advice, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, and number 10. Okay, so let's just jump into advice number 6. My sixth advice, if you want to become a better writer, is use more verbs, and please do not turn them into nouns. Okay? More than any other part of speech, it's really verbs that provide action to your writing. There's a reason why they're called action words. Okay? Because verbs are the ones that, provide a wallop. Verbs are the ones that make your sentences fly or make them run. Okay? Verbs are the ones that provide, rhythm, and they provide speed, or they slow down your writing, because they are the action words. In other words, it's the verbs that breathe life into your writing, not adjectives, because adjectives actually slow it down. Adjectives describe, so they slow down your writing. But some people, they're so enamored, they love adjectives, that they put in too many adjectives in a sentence, and it slows down the writing. Nakakaantok yun. Okay, nakakalasing yung adjectives. If you're described, using adjectives na pagkadami-dami, pang nakakataba ng puso, pero nakakaantok din yon. So, but verbs provide action. Okay? Action is what your writing needs. Okay? kumbaga sa train, yun yung magpapakilos ng writing mo. So, I will have to tell you this, okay? Stop the bad habit of turning verbs into nouns. I've always wondered, bakit ganun tayo? Okay? Bakit ang dami-daming tao, ang hilig-hilig mag-turn ng verbs into nouns. Mas gusto natin yung noun form kaysa yung verb form. Okay? I hope you understand what I mean. Okay, but just to illustrate, what I'm saying. Here's an example of a sentence where perfectly good verbs have been turned into nouns. Okay? So the utilization of new testing breakthroughs in the detection and diagnosis of the presence of the virus can serve as important deterrent that can bring about minimization of new infections. And, it makes you wonder, ba't ganon? Okay? Well, if you are more careful, if you're more discerning, mapapatanong ka talaga, ba't ganito to? Ba't ganito pagkakasulat? Ano bang gusto niyang sabihin? Okay? So you make allowances, and what you do is, you read it again. Okay? You read it a second, a third time. And this is also what happens in some OPPs, di ba? Ba't kailangan basahin ng 4 na beses? Kasi, ang hirap intindihin. Okay? Yung words and sentences pa lang, paulit-ulit mo siyang binabasa kasi what you're trying to do is separate the words from each other. Ito ang ibig niyang sabihin dito, ito ang ibig niyang sabihin sa pangalawang ito. So, sa words and sentences pa lang, hirap na, lalo pa yung sa pag-intindi kung ano talaga yung procedure. Okay? This also applies to policies, di ba? That's why policies need to be written in simple English. Okay, so, the utilization, what are the words? Anyone who can tell me what are the good verbs that have been wasted? In the chat box, please, can you tell us, ano yung magagandang verbs dito na ginawa na lang noun? Okay? Write the verb form in the chat box, please. For example, utilization. Okay? Ano ang verb form ng utilization? It's actually a verb. So what's the verb form of utilization? Anyone, please? Alam ko medyo lag yata ng konti. So, utilize is the verb form. But that's a big word. What's a smaller word for utilize? Instead of use. Okay, very good siya. Okay, parang si siya talaga is a very diligent learner. Ano ko to? Siya is a Jedi. Is one of my Jedis. Was one of my Jedis when I was in PNB. Okay. Ang Jedis is a management training program in PNB. It's one of the more popular management training programs in the banking industry. Okay, Franz, that's correct. Why use utilize when you can use? Okay? Why turn it into a noun? Bakit ganun tayo? Okay? So, for example, this whole passage, the utilization of new testing breakthroughs. And by the way, I did not invent this sentence. I actually lifted it, okay, from a news, not a news, I lifted it from a memorandum, okay, from a government agency, okay. Okay, so those are those are the verbs that have been, unfortunately, been turned into nouns. Okay, utilization, detection, diagnosis, deterrent, minimization. Okay, so I'm not sure if you realize that these are verbs that have been turned into nouns. And this is a habit that many of us, most of us, are guilty of. So, the challenge is to turn them into verbs. Okay? We need to turn them into verbs, actually. Um, we said if you want to be a good writer, you need to change certain bad habits. Okay? And this is exactly one of them. Okay? So, the challenge is, sabi nga ni Mark Twain, writing is easy. You just need to cross out the wrong words. Okay? That's a real quote from Mark Twain, one of the best American short story writers. He said, good writing is easy. You just need to identify the wrong words that you use. In this particular case, you have a situation where some perfectly good verbs have been turned into nouns. Okay. So, what the writer is actually trying to say is simple. Okay. This is what the writer is trying to say. Using new tests to detect and diagnose the presence of the virus can deter and minimize new infections. Now, this is an active sentence. Okay? This is a sentence that relies on verbs. And because of that, it's a very, very, very energetic sentence. Okay? It's crisp, malutong na sentence. Okay? Um, and it's actually very intuitive. This is the way you think, using new tests to detect and diagnose the presence of the virus. And if you really want to be friendlier, you can say using new tests to detect and diagnose COVID-19 can deter and minimize new infection. Okay? Or can slow down and minimize new infections. Okay? Now, like I said, there are many ways to say the same thing. Okay? You can use slow down instead of deter, or delay if you want to. Okay? Delay the spread if you want. Okay? So, but the use of shorter, of familiar words make the writing more effective. It makes the writing clearer. Now, if you contrast the difference between the original version and the new version, which has turned the words back into verbs, now you will notice a major difference. So my advice is use more verbs, but more important, use the verb form. In other words, please stop turning verbs into nouns. Okay? So, for example, madami-daming mga tao, favorite talaga ito, no? Favorite nila yung ganito. I've always wondered, bakit, sino ba ang nagpauso ng mga phrases na ito? No? This will serve as the basis for. Okay? Yung the runabout way of saying something, yung madami pang pasikot-sikot, madami pang paligoy-ligoy, hindi na lang dumiretso, hindi na lang tumbukin kung ano ba yung gusto mong sabihin. Okay, so for example, this will serve as the basis for the elimination of the old system. And I'm telling you, there are just too many policies, procedures that are written with this sentence at the beginning. Okay. They begin as a memorandum. This memo will serve as the basis for changing our procedures from the old one to the new one. yung half of the sentence was really not necessary. Whether you write it out longhand or whether you type it into a computer or you type it in a computer, mahaba pa, twice as many words means twice as long producing it. Twice as long having it recorded or printed it. So, yun ang nagpapatagal sa pagsusulat. Kasi, kahit isulat mo yun isa-isa, hahaba pa rin. Okay? So, this will eliminate the old system. Yun ang ibig sabihin niya, oh. Or this eliminates the old system. Or this replaces the old system. Yun naman ang gusto niyang sabihin eh. Huwag ka nang tumulan. This will serve as the basis for the elimination. Okay? Let's look at another example. Are you still awake, guys? Parang hindi active yung chat box natin. Can you say something in the chat box because I can't see you, just to make sure that I still have an audience. Hi, everyone. Are you still there? Are you still awake? I know that there are people watching because I can see the numbers in my screen. Right now, there are still 18 people. Hi, Isabel. Hi, Jesse. I'm in the garden and I'm learning. I wish I can do that. But sometimes I do that, Jesse. Alam mo, habang nasa garden, di ba, yung naka-volume lang. Tapos once in a while, I will look at the video. But most of the time, I'm just listening. Pang ginagawa kong podcast yung ibang mga videos. Okay. So, let's spot the wasted words in these examples. That is for the purpose of clarifying the objectives against which this new regulation is being proposed. This type of generosity and kindness in our donors is highly appreciated, as they go a long way in propagating the ideals for which this institution was founded. Ba't ganun? Ang haba-haba? Okay. Pang tumula pa talaga. Hi, Malu. I didn't know you were watching. Hi, Malu. Okay. The new ordinances are aimed at inculcating discipline and professionalism among employees of our municipality. The government has found difficulty in the procurement and distribution and of the vaccines. Bakit ganun, no? Bakit karamihan ng mga articles, procurement and distribution? Ba't hindi buy and distribute vaccine? Okay. Anyway, sige. So, yung number one, okay, this is for the purpose of clarifying the objectives against which this new regulation is being proposed. Okay. Ang ibig actually yung sabihin, this will clarify or this clarifies the objectives. Yung clarifying is, there's a verb form. The verb form is clarify. Okay. Number two, this type of generosity and kindness in our donors. Okay. Is highly appreciated as they go a long way in propagating the ideas for which this institution was founded. Ang ibig niya lang sabihin, we appreciate generous and kind donations or kind donors. We appreciate generous and kind donors. They advance the ideals of this institution. In other words, use the verb form. Okay? They make your sentences alive rather than use the noun form of the words. And this example, and this is true for the other examples, okay, for number 3 and number 4. Okay, itong habit na to talaga, itong parang deeply ingrained. Kasi siguro nung elementary tayo o nung high school, parang gusto talaga ng mga teachers natin yung gumamit tayo ng big words. So they encourage us to use distribution, mechanization. Oh, you take care of the distribution. The teachers that does not say, oh, you distribute them. Okay? Rather, they say, oh, bahala ka na sa distribution. Okay? Or mechanization. Or isa pa yung computerization. Okay? Why don't we just say computerized? Why do you have to say computerization? Okay? For the use of computers. Okay? Uh, okay, so let's go back. More than any other parts of speech, okay, verbs, you need verbs in your writing. And the more verbs that are present in your writing, the better actually, okay? In fact, most of the stuff in advertising use verbs, like when they say buy now or read on, okay? Because it's the verbs that provide speed and motion to your sentences. So they move your sentences forward. So when you say, for example, you're reading something, bigyan lang, move fast or try harder or let go or, yung mga ganon. In fact, you will notice this if you become more observant in billboards or in advertisements, more verbs. At saka yung mga exclamation points, okay, ang dami. Verbs are shorter and more empathic. Okay. Yung verb form, mas maiksi yun kaysa sa noun form. Because sa noun form, you will have to add ION or zation or, you have to add, a suffix to it, okay? So, for example, we have this, okay, in your screen right now. You have an example. The first actually uses the verb form. And the second one uses the noun form of the words, of some of the words at least, okay? So, the sun was rolling into the horizon when he became cognizant of her approaching him from a distance, okay? Now, the first version, which uses words in their verb forms, to my mind is more effective. It says, as the sun rolled into the horizon, he saw her walking towards him from a distance. Okay, notice the difference, no? The first one is more active, is more alive, while the second one actually is more languorous, like it's more laid back, parang nagkakwento, rather than nag-spur into action. Okay. So, the advice is use more verbs in your writing and please stop turning verbs into nouns. Okay, now, which leads us into the second half of this advice, which is as much as possible, please use the active voice. Okay? Now, a lot of people don't understand the difference between the active voice and the passive voice. Tayo mga Pilipino kasi, sanay tayo in the using Philippine languages, sanay kasi tayo sa passive voice. Kasi Philippine languages work by affixation. For example, sayaw. Sayaw is the word. Sayaw is the verb in Tagalog or in many languages. Okay, Bisaya, Cebuano, or even Ilonggo, or even Waray. Sayaw is the same. Ay Bicolano yata, sayaw pa rin yun. Okay, so the way it works, the way Philippine languages work is we just add, okay, a prefix, okay. We work by affixation, okay? And the meaning of the word changes. Okay, for example, nagsayaw becomes past tense, sasayaw becomes future tense, sinayawan becomes a place, okay? Nagsayawan becomes a social activity. It already means madaming tao sabay-sabay ginawa. Okay? Or nasayawan, or nakasayaw ko. Nakasayaw is accidental. Okay? Or, and in some languages, you even have to repeat certain syllables. Yung nagkakasayawan, and then you sayaw-sayawa. The whole meaning of the word changes. And so therefore, the in Philippine languages, we're not always in the active voice. Okay? We don't always say, si Maria ay nagsayaw kahapon. That's not the way Philippine languages work. Okay? Because nga our languages are more affixation, or we use prefixes, okay, or suffixes, or infix, or or we repeat syllables, okay. So but in English, you either have to use the active voice or the passive voice. The active voice, for example, um, I love you is a in the spirit of Valentine's Day. I want to illustrate that I love you is actually in the active voice. This is the basic structure of the English language. Subject, I. Verb, love. Object, you. I love you. That's active voice. In the passive voice, the same sentence is, you are loved by me. Okay? Now, what is wrong with the passive voice is the whole prepositional phrase, by me, is an unnecessary part of the sentence. And you're therefore tempted to drop it. So the whole sentence becomes, you are loved. Okay? So when you say something, when you say to your loved one, okay, to your husband or to your wife, you are loved. Iba yun sa I love you. Diba? Mas gusto mo naman marinig yung I love you. Kasi you are loved, you are loved, you are loved. Parang, diba? It doesn't tell you by whom. Who loves me? Diba? Most of the time you want to say, I want to hear you say it that you love me. Okay. So, what is wrong with the passive voice is that it usually, or most of the time, it doesn't tell by whom. Because by whom has already been deleted because it had become an unnecessary part of the sentence. So, on the other hand, the active voice verb, okay, is the more intuitive way of doing it. So, the active voice verb will say, subject, verb, object, okay? So, you say, people, okay, subject, verb, passive sentences for people, okay? The reverse of that is people are bored by passive sentences. Okay. So the subject, notice that the subject and the object have traded places, and that the subject, which is an important part of the sentence, has now become an unnecessary part of the sentence. And most of the time, people are who is doing it is an important part of what we are writing about. Okay. So the advice is, please write using the active voice. Okay. So let's take a look at some of these examples. The president allowed the vaccination of PSG officers and soldiers is in the active voice. Now notice we can turn it into the passive voice actually. The vaccination of PSG officers and soldiers was allowed by the president. This is now written in the passive voice. Okay, something went wrong with my PowerPoint. Okay, so let me just fix it. Okay, there, I fix it again. Hirap ng ano, dalawa yung laptop na ginagamit. Okay, okay. Uh, the advantage of a classroom setting like this, now I don't see the students or I don't see the learners, is that I actually know if you're going to the bathroom, if you are doing something else. Okay, but thank you to those thoughtful people who still, you know, tell me, stuff like PRB, which means be right back. Okay. Now, the difference between the active voice and the passive voice is that in the passive voice, who does the action becomes an unnecessary part of the writing. So they dangle there. Parang nakabitin siya. Okay? So was allowed. By whom? By the president. But you're tempted to drop that already, the phrase by the president. So without that, the vaccination of PSG officers and soldiers was allowed. Vaccines were brought for all the employees and contractors. Okay. In fact, when you're reading this, you don't actually. One of the habits of people is that we actually stop reading. We lose comprehension. We become very selective about what is retained in our memory, and once we've understood the essence of a sentence or what we think is the essence of the sentence, and that's it for us. Okay, so in these particular cases, the vaccination of PSG officers and soldiers was allowed is, the whole phrase is what is necessary to our mind. So therefore, we stop, those are the only things that may be retained in our memories, in our collective memories. And that's sad, okay? Because by then, the passive voice, okay, does not tell us by whom, okay? And most readers actually, in most cases, by whom, okay, is an important part of what we are writing about. Most readers actually prefer the active voice, okay? And writing in the active voice is actually easier because this is the default, okay? This is the way we think, okay? Like I said, the auditor will arrive, okay? Maria dances gracefully, okay? Or so subject, verb, object. That's the default. That's the way we learned the English language, okay? So that's advice number 6. Now let's move on to advice number 7. We have about an hour left, okay? Now, this advice actually kind of, okay, puts everything in one whole neat package. Because if you write using a conversational tone, as if you're just conversing with someone, all the other advice actually follows naturally. Because if you're just imagine that you're conversing with someone while you're writing, that you're just trying to explain, to somebody in a relaxed environment, in a relaxed conversation, you tend to use smaller words, you tend to use shorter sentences, okay? You use verbs, you become more animated, okay? And you try to really aim to be understood because that's the whole point of a conversation, okay? You're more relaxed, okay? So, everything else follows naturally if you use a conversational tone. Okay, so let's take a look at this example, please. Okay. I'll pause for a few minutes. Let's try to understand, okay, what the person is trying to say. Again, you have perfectly good verbs that have been turned into nouns, okay? Subsequent to the disqualification and acknowledgement of the notification of the aforementioned decision, the customer was given access to a variety of viable options towards the submission of a request for reconsideration and the necessary authorization required in the processing of the required additional documentation. Okay. Again, if you can identify the verbs that have been turned into nouns, and this is not conversational. Okay. Nobody talks to people this way. You cannot convince me that there are people who actually converse in this way. I find it very, very difficult to believe na may mga tao talagang ganito makipag-usap in a relaxed conversation. Okay. Maybe in Congress when they're in front of a microphone. But even then, unless the one speaking is, I'm sorry to say this, is so full of himself, okay? Or maybe if the person is actually reading from a prepared speech, a statement written by somebody else, then chances are the person is, saying these things. But in a natural conversation, no, they don't do it this way. They don't, okay? Nobody converses this way. Anyone who can tell me, who can rewrite this in a more conversational way? In 2 minutes, maybe. Sige, I'll post for 2 minutes. And if you're done, you can interact with me and you can write in the chat box a simpler, more conversational version of this snow job. Okay? Ang tawag dito snow job. Alam mo yun, yung sinadya talagang, wala naman talagang laman sa loob. Parang, they just shoveled it up. Okay? Para magmukhang mataas, madami. Madaming sinasabi ko. Ang totoo, wala naman talaga siyang sinasabi. Or simple lang naman talaga ang sinasabi niya. Did anyone come up with a version that's closer to what we're showing right now? Hopefully, you came up with something that's a little closer, okay? Medyo malapit dito sa second version that's now being shown on the screen. Now, a guide that always helps me, okay, when I have difficulty being conversational, okay, like when I'm writing something that's difficult, okay. For example, when I was still writing a column, I would be writing about something that's very, very difficult to express. No, there will be times when you try, to you want to say it in a way that's easily understood, or that is easier, okay, for people to read. I'd imagine myself in a relaxed conversation. Okay, so for example, I would say, paano ko ba explain ito sa mga anak ko mamaya? O paano ko ba ito, or I imagine that I'm trying to explain it to a young kid. Okay, and when I'm able to imagine myself in that situation, then I tend to use shorter sentences, Then I try to use verbs. Then I try to use simpler words. And I try to be conversational. Okay, so for example, let's go back to this example. Ito naman talagang gustong sabihin ng this is what the writer was actually trying to say. After Mrs. Tan was informed that she was disqualified from the bidding, we gave her options on how to request for reconsideration. Actually, you can break this down into two sentences. You can actually say, Mrs. Tan was informed that she was disqualified from the bidding. Okay? And then you can say, as a result, we gave her options on how to request for reconsideration. Okay? We also gave her the required documents and briefed her on the process to be followed. Now, this one is more conversational. It's more intuitive. Mas madaling, ganun ka tayo mag-isip. Okay? This is the way we think of what we're trying to say. Okay? We don't think in terms of subsequent to the removal, of subsequent to the disqualification and acknowledgement. We don't think that way. We think in terms of informing her that she was disqualified. Okay? So, when we try to focus on what we're trying to say, okay, which is advice number one, by the way, okay, be clear about what you're trying to say so that you get to focus on the idea rather than the words and sentences that you're using, okay, to express that idea. So be conversational. So a good guide is always, how should I explain this to my family at the dinner table tonight? No, like I said, this tip has always worked for me. Okay, so hopefully those of you who are in jobs that require explaining policies, explaining ordinances, or explaining complicated things, lalo na complicated steps, okay, that are composed of like 20 or 30 steps, one of the best ways to be conversational, okay, to be more relaxed, is to imagine yourself explaining it to somebody, okay, you are close to, or to kids, okay, over something, or in a situation or an environment that's relaxed, that's more natural, that's very, very friendly. And the way you're able to do it is the closest way you should write it. Okay, as close as possible to how you should how you will explain it to your children or to your wife over dinner or over supper. Okay. The other reason why people cannot write using a conversational tone or using a conversational style is because they are in love, okay? Or maybe because they've been conditioned to think that using a scientific tone, okay, is the best way to do it, or the default way to do it. Now, there are just far too many people in this world who actually think that you need to sound like a scientific person to be acknowledged as an expert, or to be acknowledged as intelligent, or to be acknowledged as an authority. Again, it's not how you write it. It's what you're writing about that puts the label scientist, okay, on you. It's not how you write it. So for example, itong classic example, the integration of oral and visual stimuli produces a more intensified effect in the brain than those resulting from either modality acting on a single class or type of stimulus. Now that's scientific gobbledygook, okay? And that's the way some people choose to write, what they write. But if you just want to be conversational, if you imagine, okay, how do I say this over dinner tonight? How should I explain this to my kids or to my wife or to my husband over dinner tonight, you might come up with something that's very, very conversational, such as this one. People learn better by hearing and seeing the ideas than by either one alone. Okay, now that is conversational, di ba? Um, Again, this might have happened to you many times. You write something, you write a memo, you write a report. Hi, Elni. Kumusta? Kumusta, Elni? How are the people in Ayala, Alabang? Okay, now, again, let's go back to where was I? Okay, I was trying to say that, and because this has also happened to me many times. Okay, uh, I'm asked to write about something very, very complicated or very complex. Okay, and I write it. Okay, and to my mind, syempre, to my mind, it was clear. Kasi I knew what I was trying to say. That's a difficulty when you're writing kasi no matter how many times you read it, it will always look clear to you. Kasi alam mo, ang gusto mong sabihin eh. Of course, it will always look clear to you. However, the reader will rely on what's on the page to find out, in terms of what is it that you are really trying to say. So, nalabas na, pagkatapos may tumawag sa akin. Sabi, Sir Bong, Sir, anong gusto mong, taka lang sir, nalilito kami. Ano bang ibig sabihin nito? Tama ba yung, kaya, Sir, tama ba yung pagkakaintindi ko? Ganito yon. Ganito yung bagong policy. Okay, tapos nandun yung, I explain it. Sasabihin ko, ganito lang yon. Simply, ganito yun lang yung kasimple. Ganito yun makinig ka. And then I explain it using short sentences, using familiar words, and in a conversational style. Okay, devoid of the legalese, devoid of the subsequent heretofore, duly in accordance with, devoid of all of those trappings of legality. Now, we should not be there. We should not have been there to begin with. Pagkatapos nun, sabi nung kausap ko sa telepono, ay, ganun lang ba yon? Gets ko po, gets ko. Kaya lang, siguro naisip din ng tao pagkababa mo ng telepono, ganun lang naman pala yun. Ba't hindi nila sinulat ng ganun? They should have written it that way. Para hindi na ako tumawag. Di ba? Para hindi na sana nalito ang mga tao. Para naintindihan ka agad, sana ganun na lang ang pagkakasulat. And really, seriously, in most cases, that should have been the way it should have been written to begin with. Okay? So, the other reason why people are not more conversational is because they write in the third person. I don't understand this. Okay. Sa tingin nyo, anyone can explain to me, bakit ang hilig-hilig magsulat ng mga tao ng the undersigned? O kaya this writer? Okay, this. Okay. Have you come across a memo that begins with the undersigned? Okay. And then somewhere shifts to I. And then shifts to myself, you know. Di ba ang weird kung the undersigned will be on leave starting tomorrow. Hindi mo na magamit yung undersigned sa second sentence. You say, I will appreciate if you can send your, if you can submit the reports to, and then you mention another person. You're acknowledging that the undersigned is a synonym, well, it's a stuffy synonym for the word I. So why don't you just use I to begin with, no? So, to be conversational, you need to ditch writing in the third person because it also makes you sound, you know, to be honest about it, you begin to sound like, when you use words like the undersigned, it's very, very impersonal, and you come across as this stuffy old person. So bring people in. Use your pronouns. I, we, us, they. The other way to be conversational is read what you write. Read what you write. Okay. Very often, okay, when you read what you write and you listen to yourself, you begin to realize na, teka lang, hindi ako ganito magsulat ah. Hindi ako ganito magsalita. Bakit ganito ako magsulat? Okay? And then chop long sentences and replace big words to smaller words. Yes, parang writing a novel, a long, long, long novel. Because some novels are also written using a friendly style. Well, novel na ano na War and Peace, 'di ba? Ni Leo Tolstoy or Anna Karenina. Yung mga lumang novels na ang hirap-hirap basahin o mga novels ni Umberto Eco, 'di ba? Um, pero yung mga Harry Potter, yung mga ganon, madaling basahin yon, okay? Because they're written for kids. But surprisingly, majority of those who have read Harry Potter are actually adults, okay? Adults with, you know, who are childlike, who are children at heart. Okay. Actually, the writer did not make a distinction. Actually, she just wrote for an audience, and it was just accidental that you know many kids actually read it. Okay, so for example, vision statements, the most powerful, the most inspiring, the most engaging vision statements are written in a conversational style. It's like they're just telling people what they're about without the fluff, without the BS. Okay, they they convey the essence, their core about who they are and what they are about, using words that are powerful and inspiring. So, for example, Apple, okay, the vision statement of Apple is quite straight to the point and it's very conversational. And that's why it resonates with so many people because they're very conversational. It says to make the best products on earth and to leave the world better than we found it. Or IKEA, no? To create a better everyday life for many people. And it's a very, very powerful vision statement. Okay? Or Oxfam, a world without poverty. Or Disney, the vision statement of Disneyland, to make people happy. Or Facebook. I don't know if you know that Facebook actually has a vision statement. And the vision statement is to give people the power to share and make the world more open and connected. Okay? All right. Before we move on our to our next advice, okay, let's pause for some grammar tips, okay? May mga nag-email sa akin na sana daw damihan yung grammar tips, grammar advice, okay, or grammar review. Okay. Gawin na lang natin parang breaker ito. So, here are 12 commonly misused words. All right. Number 1, people. Equipments. Okay. What should it be? Or equipments. Correct, okay? Walang word na equipments. Okay, so don't use equipments. It's wrong. Um, equipment, Dino Clemente, equipment is collective. Walang S dapat. Correct. Okay, walang S. Irregardless. Have you heard of people saying this? Irregardless of. Okay. Irregardless. What is wrong with this word? Irregardless. Correct. Equipment only. Sabi ni Cecil Cruz. Okay. Okay. Tama yun. Equipment without an S. That's correct. Okay. Okay. Regardless already means without regard, di ba? Kahit na, di ba? There is no word that says, there is no such thing as irregardless. Kasi yung less, okay, regardless, okay, bottomless, okay, ibig sabihin, it already establishes na bar none, okay, regardless. Okay. So, no such a word that is, walang word na, paano, di na yata ako marunong mag-English ngayon. Walang word na irregardless, okay? So, please don't use that word. Data, what is the singular form of data? Actually, today, data data is plural actually. But today, data can also be singular. It's already generally accepted to use data is or data are. But if you want to be really technical about it, if you want to be a if you fancy yourself as a grammar police, what is the singular form of data? Anyone? Ano ang singular form ng data? Maraming hindi nakakaalam kung anong singular form ng data. Anyone? Write in the chat box, please. What is the singular form of data? If you know, datum, yun. Datum is the singular form of data, but very few people use datum kasi data is usually madami, di ba? The data, when you say data, it's mahirap naman just one data. Data is usually a result of an effort, and it's usually linked to so many things. So data is hardly singular. Most of the time, it's really plural. Okay? But you're correct. Okay? Cecil Cruz, Isabel Santos, Franz Tayoto, Angel Sai, datum is the singular form of data. Although today, like I have to repeat this, data can be both singular and plural already. Okay. Feedback. Okay. And actually, this makes me cringe every time I hear somebody say feedbacks. There is no such a word. There's no word that says feedbacks. Okay, wala pong word na feedbacks. So it's just feedback. So you can just say, I received a number of feedback. Or I gave her, plenty of feedback if you want to say that. Okay. But you can say, I gave her feedbacks. And the same applies to furniture. Furniture is also plural already. Otherwise, you're referring to a chair, a table, a cabinet, those are singular. But altogether, they are furniture. Okay? So, kasi madami ding nag-akala na furniture refers to a chair. Yung isang chair, furniture na yon. Okay? Hindi po. Furniture is a collective term for pieces of, what's in your living room or what's in your dining room. Okay? So, the furniture. Walang S po yun. Work. When can you use works? Okay? Anyone who can help everybody else? Kailan po pwedeng gamitin ang works, yung may S na form? Kailan pwedeng gamitin yung works? In what context can we use the word works? Yung may S. Okay, please write in the chat box. Yes, when it's in the singular form. Okay. When used as a verb, that's correct. Okay. But when used as a noun, when can you use works? Okay. Dino. Okay. When in I suppose you mean literature. Okay. That's correct. Okay. When you're referring to a body of works in literature or in art. Okay. Like when you say the works of Shakespeare or the works of um, Ben Cabrera. Okay. Ben Cobb. Okay. So works can apply if you're referring to a body of works. Okay, so the works, for example, of Michael Cagney. Okay, in the context of art. Okay, literature or art, or the works of Ryan Cayabyab. Okay, when you're referring to to compositions, okay, you can use works in that context, okay, when you're referring to a body of work by artists. That's the only thing, but otherwise in industrial setting you cannot use works, okay, except as a verb. Okay, advice is always in that form. There is no such thing as advices. So how do you write, pag maraming advice, paano yon? Such as when you're talking to someone and you gave the person madaming advice. Paano mo isusulat yon? How do you write that? How do you convey the concept of giving somebody, madaming advice? If you cannot say advices. In the chat box, please. 18 viewers at this point, kasi they come and go. I think at our highest at one point, I was looking at the log of the live stream. At yung total malaki siya, no? But some people they drop out at a certain point and they come back. Actually, you don't have to log out. You can just leave it. You can just kung hindi ka naman nag-ano sa internet, kung hindi ka naman concerned kung hindi ka naka-data, you can just turn it on and you can just lower the volume so that you don't have to log in again. Okay. Malu Bustos, pieces of advice. That's a very good way of saying maraming advice. So pieces of advice is okay. Okay. In fact, that's the way I say it. I gave her pieces of advice. Okay. Rather than advices. Okay. Much advice. Plenty advice. Okay. Okay. Few, less. Okay. Well, I use pieces of advice. Okay. Or a number of advice. Okay. Or a long list of advice. Okay. Pero walang advices. Bedding. Okay. Bedding has no S. Okay. Bedding. So please do not say beddings. So bedding refers to what is in your bed. Okay. So it can refer to, pillowcases and your bed sheet and your comforter. All of those are bedding. Okay. Not beddings. Can someone provide me the correct form of number 9? Unahan tayo. Sige. Sulat tayo sa chat box. Yung iba kasi, ganito yung pagkakasulat nila niyan. Okay? The concept refers to yung nabawasan yung pay, nabawasan yung sweldo. which is a violation of the law. You violate the law if you're guilty of this concept. But some people, they don't know the right word. They think that this is how it's spelled, or that this is the word, diminution. Okay, in the chat box, please write. Please write, what is the actual word, please? Waiting. Okay, there it is. The correct word is diminution, not diminution. It's diminution of benefits. Diminution. Tama yun, okay? So tama, si Malu, si Angel Sai, si Isabel Santos, si Cecil Cruz, ito mga HR people. When I was still in HR, well, I'm still in HR, natatawa ako pag may nagsasabi sa akin na, Sir, diminution yun. Diminution of benefits. Gusto kong sabihin, walang word na diminution. The word is diminution. Okay? Parang shrapnel. Okay? Some people, they use the word sharpnel. Okay? Diba? Minsan nakakairita pag nakakadinig kayo. Wow! Sharpnel! Ang daming sharpnel! Walang word na sharpnel po. Ang word po is shrapnel. Okay? Shrapnel. Nakulog pa yung isa. Pagkuha nga yung cellphone ko. So the word is shrapnel. Pag may nakita kayong gumagapang sa likod ko, okay, kinukuha yung cellphone kong nahulog. Okay. So the word is shrapnel. Okay, the next word is jewelries. Let me know if this is correct or not. So, correct or not? Okay, write in the chat box, jewelries. Is that correct or wrong? You still there, people? Okay. Jewelries is wrong. Okay. The plural form of jewelries is jewelry. Again, we use the words like, we use phrases like pieces of jewelry to refer to many different types of jewelry. But jewelry is always jewelry. Okay. Walang jewelries. By the way, jewelry can also be spelled double L-E if you want. Okay, but American way of spelling it is just that, jewelry. And full-fledged, can you write in the chat box what is the acceptable, what is the correct? See, Franz Toyota, wrong. Jewelry is uncountable. Okay, correct. Yes, Sha, the correct concept is full-fledged. Okay, full-fledged with an F. Hindi full-fledged. Hindi po siya Hindi po siya pledging. Ang concept po ng full-fledged is from the word fledgling, yung maliit na yung inakay na ibon is a fledgling. Okay? Hindi po siya yung nanumpa na. Yun yung pledge. Okay? So there is no such thing as full-fledged. Okay? Wait lang ha. Next one, full-fledged, correct? That's Franz Tayoto. Angel, okay. Angel's High, if you use the form with a double L, that comes with an E. Okay. Angel's High, that's correct. Okay. It's with an E. If you choose that form, although in the Philippines, we're more familiar with the yung isang E, isang L lang. And let me just finish this. Okay, sige. So let's go back. Underwears. Sorry, Angel's Eye. I was sorry. I had to respond to a text message na medyo urgent. Okay. Sorry, let me just finish this. Okay, sige. So last one is underwears, which is again okay, which is again many people use incorrectly. They use use a word like underwears. Okay, maybe to refer to many sets of underwear, but they're really just underwear. Okay, however, for example, panties is always in the plural. Stockings, socks, they're always in the plural form. Okay, but underwear is collective word, no, for undergarments. That's correct, Cecil. Undergarments. Okay. Okay. Okay, let me just go back to the practical advice, and we'll try to do this faster now, because the next set of advice, they're a little easier, no, to explain. Hopefully, we can get to finish this and go back to the grammar review. I have three more topics to review about in terms to grammar, but let's finish the advice on writing first. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, hopefully the 18 viewers that are present now, that are still present. Okay, advice number 8: provide breathing spaces. Use commas, periods, and paragraphs. Now, a lot of people, okay, are unaware of the value of using this. Okay, actually readers need breaks. Okay, um, there's value to actually using a lot of periods, even the use of commas, and most of the time they're really subconscious, okay, or unconsciously practiced. In other words, when you're reading, you don't even notice that the commas do the job of separating ideas for you, or that white space, okay, actually helps comprehension. That paragraphs indicate when you break into another paragraph, it already signals into your mind na that's another topic, okay, or that these are places to rest for your mind to rest. Okay, now one of the things that we need to accept is that gaano man tayo katalino, may limitations talaga ang human brain. The brain, magnificent computer, that it is, has a lot of limitations actually. Okay. Isang processor lang talaga siya actually, and it can only process, things up to a certain extent, and therefore it needs breaks. It needs actually rest periods. For example, and this is the one on the left is the original version. Sometimes I post in Facebook prayers or messages. And what I do this is an actual post I did a few days ago, and it got shared many times over. And a lot of people probably read it. No? Now, the original version is the one on the left. Okay, this was posted by another person. But I read it because I make allowances, because I am aware that sometimes people just don't know. People are not aware that if you only they provide paragraphs or more periods, if there's more white space, it becomes easier for people to read. It becomes more friendly, and it becomes more lighter for many people. It's not just one whole glob of information. It's just like one block of information. So you break it down, you create more white space, it becomes more digestible. Mas kaaya-aya siyang tingnan. So yung original, ang ginawa ko lang dyan, hiniwalay-hiwalay ko lang from one paragraph into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 paragraphs. Okay, and if you compare the one on the left versus the one on the right, the one on the right was the one I came up with. Ang ginawa ko lang dyan, I just broke it into paragraphs. And if you look at it, by just looking at it, mas gusto mong basahin. Okay? Mas hindi siya mabigat. Okay? And this is the value of using paragraphs, of using more periods. So the advice is actually the more periods in your writing, the better. Because that means that you are writing shorter sentences. Okay? For example, this is an essay that this is from a blog, okay, of a friend of mine, and you will notice it has a number of a lot of periods in it. Okay, let's just read it. Finally, memories are perhaps the only item that cannot be taken away from us. Will I miss my father? Every single day. In fact, if I was the one who wrote this, I would probably write that in separate words. Okay, every period, single period, day period. Just to emphasize, what can I do in those times? I can open up our suitcase of memories. I can pick out my favorite one, dream about it, talk about it, or even write about it. Maybe I can pick up the phone and not call him anymore, but that doesn't mean he's gone. Next week, I'm off to Istanbul to create their art scene, to explore their art scene. As soon as I read the email from my editor, I picked up my phone to call Dad. Then I realized he'll never answer my calls again. I fought back the tears, got up to make a cup of peppermint tea, and added a new note to my iPhone titled Istanbul Packing List. In the end, life goes on. I'm not sure why he had to leave during the single and most poignant chapter in my life, so I won't dwell on that. Instead, I'll hold tightly to these three ideas and write about Karakoy in Istanbul's district, Bio district. That will be with me every step of the way. So, the more periods in your writing, the better. Actually, I came across a quotation that I kind of liked, no, but I couldn't find uh, a good illustration of it. It said the period is the noblest punctuation of them all. So use it. So when you're stuck while writing, use a period and go back to the last sentence and rewrite it. Write it all over again. When having difficulty expressing an idea, use a period. Okay, use more periods. Okay, break that long sentence into 3 or 4 sentences. When when there are 2 or 3 or more ideas being written about, use more periods. When you don't have anything else to say, use a period and end it. When you don't have anything else to say, just end it. Okay, there is no need to do a production just to end something. Kung wala ka nang sasabihin, tapusin mo, pirmahan mo na. When you want to separate ideas, themes, topics, use a period and move on to the next one. So, use a comma again. Okay, so this is kind of grammar review. Kasi a lot of people don't realize that you need to use commas for certain things. Okay, for example, you use a comma to separate independent clauses when they are joined by any of these 7 coordinating conjunctions. And, but, for, or, nor, so, yet. And here we have examples. The game was over, but the crowd refused to leave. So you have to write a comma because these are 2 independent clauses. When you say independent clauses, ibig sabihin, independent. They can stand on their own individually. The game was over is another sentence. The crowd refused to leave is another sentence. But you need to put the two phrase clauses in one sentence. So you have to use but. So in this case, you need to use a comma. So when you have to use, when you have 2 independent clauses in a sentence, and you're using a coordinating conjunction to illustrate a change in the general idea, but, for, or, nor, you need to use a comma. For example, the student explained her question, yet the instructor still didn't seem to understand. Okay, then you need a comma. Yesterday was her brother's birthday, comma, so she took him out to dinner. So in this sentence, you use comma. Why? Because the comma signals to the brain that there is, kung baga nagda-drive ka, yung comma is the signal light that tells people you're turning right. Okay, so the comma in this particular sentence does a powerful job of signaling to the brain that there is a change in the direction of the sentence. Use commas after introductory clauses, phrases, words that come before the main clause. I know these are technical terms, but just have to understand, okay? When you have a sentence and you need a condition clause, ibig sabihin, kailangan mo i-introduce yung sentence using a clause, okay? You say, while I was eating, he entered the door. Then you need to use a comma, okay? Because without a comma, the brain will not know that there is going to be a change in direction of the sentence. Because her alarm clock was broken, she was late for class. You need a comma there. If you are ill, you ought to see a doctor. When the snow stops falling, we'll shovel the driveway. To get a seat, you'd better come early. After the test, but before lunch, I went jogging. So, when you use an introductory, okay, kung tutula ka muna bago yung sentence, kailangan mo ng comma, okay? Otherwise, hindi maintindihan ng utak kasi punctuation marks like commas signal to the brain, okay, what's happening in the sentence. They're not just decorative pieces. Punctuation marks actually are like traffic signs. They're traffic signs in sentences. Use a pair of commas in the middle of a sentence to set off clauses, phrase, and words that are not essential to the meaning of the sentence. In other words, meron kang nilagay sa gitna ng sentence na hindi naman talaga siya importante. In other words, pwede mo siyang tanggalin. Pwede mo siyang tanggalin. Parang nagkukwento ka, tapos sa gitna ng kwento mo, may by the way, ka, alam mo, ganito kasi yun eh, tapos balik ka sa dati mong kwento. Kailangan nasa loob yun ng dalawang kama. So for example, that Tuesday, which happens to be my birthday, is the only day when I am available to meet. Pwede mong tanggalin yung whole clause, which happens to be my birthday. Then the sentence will read, that Tuesday, okay, that Tuesday is the only day when I'm available to meet. So ang tawag dyan talaga is, okay, that's an, okay. Okay, so you can take that off, that whole clause, you can take that off the sentence, and the meaning of the sentence will not change. Okay, it can be a clause, it can be a phrase, it can be a word. For example, when it comes to a word, I appreciate your hard work. In this case, however, you seem to have overexcited yourself. Dumaan po yung train, nakatira po ako sa tabi ng train. Yung madami sa inyo, yung nagpo-follow sa akin, alam yan, na nakatira ako sa Riles ng train. Kami po yung home along the Riles. So, hindi naman yung katabi-katabi actually. This is our house, this is a street, this is well, it's a canal technically, malaking canal, kaya lang nakpan na siya. Okay, tapos there's a wall, tapos there's space, and there's the railway. Okay. So malayo naman ng konti. Pero maririnig mo yung train pag dumadaan siya. Use a comma to separate three or more words, phrases, or clauses written in a series. Oh, choo-choo train. Alright. Minsan pag nag-vlog ako, pag I'm taping a video, minsan naririnig talaga eh. Okay. Again, when you're writing words in a series, okay, the Constitution establishes the legislative, executive, and judicial branches of government. Okay, so you need commas to separate the words. Otherwise, the reader will be confused. So there's a purpose why you have to use comma. And the purpose really is for better comprehension. Sabi ko nga, your commas are traffic signs, okay? Whether the sign is, zigzag or over U-turn or turn right or turn left, the comma is very, very important. Use a comma to shift within the main discourse and a quotation. If you're going to use a quotation and you're going to introduce a quotation quickly into your writing, use a comma. So when you say, John said without emotion, I'll see you tomorrow. I was able, she answered, to complete the assignment. Okay, so if you're going to use a quotation, okay, if you're going to introduce or bring into your writing a phrase or a sentence or a statement that is in quoted, okay, that is in quotations, use a comma before that. All right. Next advice, okay, when you say, give the reader breaks. Okay? Give the reader. Alam niyo po kasi, yung reader, nobody stops reading in the middle of a sentence. We always stagger on. Kahit tinatawag ka na, hindi mo ibababa yung libro. Kahit tinatawag ka na. Kasi, kailangan mong tapusin yung sentence. Nobody stops reading in the middle of a sentence. You always stop reading at the end of a sentence. Or some people, if they're more conscientious, people like me, at the end of a paragraph, I will have to finish a paragraph. Kasi alam ko, babalikan ko siya ulit. Yung buong, sometimes, in fact, if I'm reading for relaxation, I would finish the whole page first or a whole chapter before I dress. So there's value in these things, no? The brain needs it. That needs this. So break into paragraphs. Okay, a lot of people don't know the value of using paragraphs, but they're very, very important to your writing. Even if you're writing a memo, even if you're writing a letter, you need to break into paragraphs. Okay, the ideal length of paragraph should be about 7 or 8 sentences or 7 or 8 lines. If you are writing 10 lines already, break anyway. Okay, break anyway. Kahit wala pa siyang logical. Kasi studies have shown, have proven that comprehension suffers after 10 lines. You know, yung after 10 lines, pag wala pang paragraph, na medyo hirap na yung utak mag-intindi. Okay? So paragraphs group related ideas together. So alam mo, ito one idea, ito another idea, ito another idea. By just looking at it, okay, and it signals the brain. You don't have to write, okay, this is another topic. You don't have to write that anymore. By just writing it off as a separate paragraph, it already tells the brain it's another idea. So you don't have to write transition sentences. Okay, you don't have to say, as I was saying, you don't need to say that anymore because you've already broken in, you've already shifted into another paragraph. Paragraphs also subconsciously or unconsciously signal to the brain to organize the information. Okay, and paragraphs make your writing visually pleasant. The more white space, the better. Okay, so yung white space, yung walang ink, maganda yun. Okay, it makes the writing airy. Yung parang hindi ka nasasakal. Kasi kung tumingin kasi sa libro, tapos walang white space, wala nang illustration, wala nang drawing, tapos puro pa black ink, wala pang breaks, ang hirap-hirap. Okay, so like I said, the ideal should be 7 to 8 lines. Okay, and again, here is an example of what I'm talking about. Okay, so please, now if you notice, the one on the left is one whole glob of information. By just looking at it, parang gusto mo nang sumigaw ng paracetamol, please. Okay, Diyos ko po, ito babasahin ko. Isang buong, black ink in one page. But if you look at the one on the right, there's a lot of white space. The writer has been thoughtful. Some sentences are even written off as one sentence, and therefore it literally jumps off the page. Okay? Literally, parang lumutang siya kasi nag-isa siyang sentence sa buong paragraph. So that's a very effective way of illustrating or emphasizing certain ideas. Okay. Number 9. Okay. We have about 15 minutes. Craft an outline or map your ideas. Okay, so like we said, you cannot express yourself clearly until you have thought the ideas out clearly. Kung hindi mo alam kung anong sasabihin mo, hindi mo masusulat 'yon ng malinaw. Okay, it's very very logical. It's very very simple actually. It's so, if you come to think about it, common sense, diba? You need to make sure that you've already organized para hindi, kung gusto mo talagang pagsulat mo dire-diretso. Okay. Now, the best way to do that really is to have an outline. Kaya lang, karamihan ng tao hindi marunong mag-outline. That's the problem. Now, ano nga ba talaga ang good writing? Good writing is good thinking. It's just like there's a switch in your mind. Okay, now when you read something, what you're really reading is the person's thinking, and hopefully, the thinking is not convoluted. Hindi siya nakakahilo. Kasi otherwise sasabihin, ganito ba siya mag-isip? Diba? Sometimes people have different personalities, diba? Like, iba yung personality niya pag nagsasalita siya in person at iba ang personality niya pag nagsusulat siya. In reality, dapat wala yon. Okay? Dapat wala. Pareho lang. So there should be a switch in the brain that says, if you're thinking, and you're writing, dapat walang pinagkaiba yon. Okay? So, let's do a little exercise, please. Okay? Are you still there, people? 15 viewers. Are you still there? My God, malapit na mag 3 hours. Sabi ng experts, yung optimum daw na virtual learning, about 2.5 hours. Beyond that, talagang extra effort na talaga. Okay? So, okay. Are you still there? Drop me a note in the chat box, please, if you're still there. Thank you, Isabel. Okay, Isabel. What about the others? Are you still there? Are you still with me? Ay, andito pa si Elnie, andito pa si Dino. So it's a simple experiment, A, B, C, D. Okay, how many combinations can you make of the letters A and B? A and B lang, di ba dalawa? A, B, B, A. Okay, madali lang yun. How many combinations can you make? How many 3-letter combinations can you make of the letters A, B, C? Hi, Franz. Hi, Sha. Hi, Ilet. Hi, Cecil. Okay. Elnie. Of the letters A, B, C. Okay. How many? Malu, hi. Good. Now, how many combinations can you make of the letters? How many 4-letter combinations can you make of the letters A, B, C, D? Sige nga. Anyone? How many? How many possible 4-letter combinations can you make of the letters A, B, C, D? Walang audio. Kailangan A, B, C, D. Okay? Bawal umulit ang letters. Okay? Actually, 24. Okay? 24. Okay. 24. Okay, so actually there are 24. Pero, yes, 24 siya. Okay? There are actually called permutations, diba? If you want to be technical about it, they're called permutations. Francine 7, madami pa po. Yung 4-letter combinations of A, B, C, D. Okay, but you cannot figure the whole 24 combinations. You cannot figure out in your mind without writing them down. Okay? Mahirap tandaan yung 24. Mahirap i-process. Okay? Even if the idea is as simple as A, B, C, D. Now imagine if A, B, C, D stands for actual ideas. For actual ideas. Ang hirap-hirap nun, di ba? So, for example, if you write it down, however, pag sinulat mo na yon, You know, you begin writing siguro A, B, C, D. A, B, B, C. A, C, B, D. You start writing them down. And then all of a sudden, you see a pattern. You will see a pattern. And you begin writing them down this way. Ganito pala yun. So you begin drawing arrows back and forth, and then you begin with a clean sheet of paper, and you're able to write it this way. A, B, C, D. Then baliktarin mo yung last two. A, B, D, C. And then you move on. Okay, A, C, and then D, D, and then next A, C. Tapos baliktarin mo yung dalawang letters. And then yung to A, D, B, C, and then yung A, D, C, B. Di ba? Madaling to organize it. You can actually do it quickly. Pag nakita mo na siya, ganito pala siya. Ganito yung there's a system to it. There's logic to it. Okay, there's a way to do it. Okay, BACB, BADC, BCDA, BCAD, yung ganun. Okay. Now, the thing is, you cannot do this without writing it down. Okay, you cannot. Okay, even if it's a simple idea, the concept is so simple, just letters, but the brain cannot process these ideas on its own. The brain cannot process it, okay? Like I said, the magnificent computer as it is, the brain has certain limitations, actually. So, you need to write it down. The brain needs the help of the senses before it can process information. So this is why you need to outline. Okay? The problem is, when we say the word, there it is, you say, outline. Kaya lang, bad advice, di ba? Tinuruan kasi tayo siguro ng some English teacher, you know, when you were in high school, when you were in first year college, when you were in second year college, they taught you how to outline, and they taught you to do it this way. Diba? You have a fresh paper, walang sulat talaga, and then what do? You write number 1. Okay, dun sa taas, 1. Number 1. Outline. Sabi mo, I will outline. I will write. Bago ko magsulat, mag-outline ako. So sinulat mo, number 1. And then what happens? Nothing. You sit and you stare at number 1 for a long period of time. Okay? And nothing happens. So, what you do is, you say, bukas na lang. Bukas na lang. Kakapagod mag-outline. Hirap mag-outline eh. Okay? Bad advice. The way to outline is no numbers. Okay? Don't write numbers. The reason why you outline is you need to sort it out. Okay? You need to write down your ideas so that it triggers the brain, because the brain needs to see, literally see. Kailangan makita niya talaga yung ideas para ma-trigger yung iba pang ideas. Okay? And that is what happens when you're faced with a deadline and sabi mo sa sarili mo, kailangan kong sulatin ito. Kasi pag hindi ko pati sinulat, malilintikan na ako sa boss ko. So, ang ginawa mo, umupo ka na sa computer, sinulat mo na, sabi mo sa sarili mo, bahala na, sulat ko na lang muna ito, mamaya ko na lang ayusin. Tapos, nung nagsusulat ka na, nakita mo na yung letters, nakita mo na yung words, nakita mo na yung sentences, nakita mo na yung, you see the ideas, you actually see the ideas in your screen. You say, oh, alam ko na, okay. That's what happens. Suddenly, your brain had something to trigger it because the brain saw the idea. So when you make an outline, then what you need to do is just write down ideas, okay? So in my example, do not write Roman numeral number 1 or number 1. Just write the ideas in any particular order, in no particular order. Just write it down, okay? Later on, parang imagine yourself, lahat ng laman ng utak mo, sinulat mo lang. Tapos later on, add to the words, maglagay ka ng arrows, maglagay ka ng lines, dagdag dito, dagdag doon, and sooner or later, your outline becomes like a map, like a maze of words. Okay, by just looking at it, say, ito, number 1. You can now highlight words. You can encircle them. You say, ito. This one. This is the main point. This is the most important point of my writing. Okay, this should be number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. And then what you do is you actually transform them into a mind map. Okay, now you can actually already write, if you're just writing a simple report or a simple letter, you can use your rough outline, yung mga words lang, mga sentences lang, yung mga phrases lang, you can actually turn them into you can actually write already. Or if you want, if it's a very complicated piece of writing, you can still translate it into a mind map, okay? So a mind map is like this. This is how I take down notes, by the way, when I attend a training program, when I attend a lecture. This is the way I take down notes. I use mind maps, so I just write down ideas and I draw maps and I draw arrows and I usually have different colors of pens, and they're very, very whole brain. Ano ibig sabihin ng whole brain? Left brain at saka right brain, all parts of your brain, Now, if you're just using mind maps for the first time, you can just start with a sun diagram, okay? This is what a sun diagram looks like. You just put a topic in the middle, and then you just build, just write all the thoughts around it, And then, eventually, you transform your sun diagram into another map, okay? So hopefully your map becomes something like the ones on the right, where suddenly, they're like different bursts, parang fireworks na siya, okay? Or nagiging medyo, okay, lag talaga yung iba. So anyway, so there's a disconnect between the chat box and my lecture, because I'm just seeing now some of the comments relating to the exercise, the ABCD. Never mind, kasi Valentine's Day siguro, kaya the internet is burning. Okay, maybe the internet hirap talaga kasi everybody's on the phone, or everybody's in chat rooms. Okay. So eventually, yung sun illustration mo, magiging ganito na, yung mga nakikita mo sa screen ngayon. Hopefully, okay? But it takes a little patience to do this, and it takes discipline, okay? So, but eventually, I guarantee you, I assure you, eventually, you'll get the hang of it. Eventually, darating din yung panahon na magiging default mo na when you're taking down notes, you're actually going to use notes, okay, that are done using mind maps, okay? Hi, Christine. So medyo, like I said, okay, yes. Some people are messaging me in their cell phones. Medyo mahina daw yung internet nila. Okay, Malu, sorry. Yes, I get it. Mahina yung internet. Okay, and it's Valentine's Day, so people have to leave. Okay, so let's move on to my next advice, and maybe I'll just have a video on grammar reviews. We won't be able to do the other reviews because it's now 5 o'clock actually on my watch. Malapit na. Okay, it's 4:46, 15 minutes more. So, my last advice, like I said, most from advice number 1 to number 8 were about the content, how to translate your magnificent ideas into words and sentences that can help your readers understand, okay, what your ideas. And like I said, the ideas are different from the words and sentences that you use to express themselves. They're just transportation systems. Yan, nagmamadali na tuloy ako. Kaya, anyway, sige. So, I'm tempted to ask again for everybody to write in the chat box if you're still alive, if you're still there. But I know there's lag, okay? Medyo there's a wide gap between the chat box and so let's just move on, okay? So um, but really, how to put them together and what's the best way to arrange your ideas is called organizing. So this is another thing. Some people they have some people they see Christina nosebleed na. Some people, okay, they have an organizing problem. In other words, they don't know ano ba dapat unahin. They're swimming there with all these ideas and they're wondering, what is the best way to put all of them together? Hi, Windy! My goodness, Windy! Okay, are you still in Davao? Okay. Nagugulat ako. Ang dami-dami ko nakikitang names. Anyway, sige. So, Isabel, you're still there. Thank you, Isabel. Okay, so, how to organize? What is the best way to organize or to put your ideas together into a cohesive, coherent whole? Okay, the answer to that is you have to answer the question that is foremost in your reader's mind. And the question is, ano yung sagot sa tanong ko? What's in it for me? Okay? Why should I read? Whether you're writing a newspaper report or you're reading a novel, there's a question that you want answered if you're the reader. And the question is, what is the answer to my question? Because they have a question. What do you want to say? What's the most important information? And therefore, we should all learn to structure what we write using the inverted pyramid of journalists. Okay? Hi, Lising. Hi, Glyceria Guston. Thank you, Lising. Okay. This is called the inverted pyramid of journalists. Okay? Inverted pyramid kasi baliktad siya. Okay? What does it mean? You make sure that you put all your important information very early on. Okay? The most important information, and you spend the rest of the writing supporting that information. Now, a lot of people don't like this kasi it's the complete opposite of how they discovered their conclusion. In real life, sa totoong buhay talaga, yung conclusion o yung learning o yung important points, alam lang natin siya sa dulo, yung natapos ka na lahat. And therefore, there's always the temptation to write it that way. Okay? Na parang, kung paano mo siya ni-discover, ganun yung pagkakasulat mo, chronological. But even when you're writing a resume, hindi advisable ang chronological na resume na magsisimula ka ng grade 1 to recent. Baliktad dapat. Diba? When you're writing a resume, start with the most recent information kasi yun ang importante sa resume. Okay? Your recent experiences or the most important data about yourself, dapat yun ang nasa unahan sa resume mo. The same is true when you're writing a letter. You need to put the most important information early so that there is no confusion for the reader. The reader actually becomes a better reader because he or she understands what is the main point of the letter. So if it's bad news, then he can say, paano niya nasabi ito? Paano siya nakarating dito? Sige nga, basahin ko nga yung buo. Okay? Or if she agrees with it, she might say, oh, sige. And then, or she can say, oh, sige, pareho naman kami ng paniniwala, so hindi niya nababasahin yung iba. But the question is, kung sabi mo, kailangan lang isulat yung pinaka-importanting information very early on, ba't pasusulatin ko yung iba? Ba't ko pasusulatin lahat? The answer to that is, you need supporting documentation. Okay? So you write the rest as supporting documentation. So, there are many types of readers. There are readers, okay, they just want to read the most important information. Like some people read the newspapers this way. Diba? Yung babasahin mo na lahat ng headline, tapos mamimili na siya kung ano yung babasahin niya lang. Kasi by the headline alone, alam mo na yung kwento. Okay? The headline says, vaccines arriving March. So alam mo na, March pa pala ang mga vaccines. Ayun, kung gusto mo pang malaman yung other details, then you can keep reading on. Okay? And then, minsan nga, hindi mo na pag sinabi sa news article, turn to page 12, hindi ka na nagpupunta sa page 12 kasi nakuha mo na yung information. So, it helps, there are readers, they just want to read the important information. There are readers naman, they're selective. Yung kung gusto lang nilang basahin, yung kung ano lang yung interesado sila. Yung iba naman, they want to read the whole thing. They're very conscientious in that way. So, if you're that kind of reader, okay, the inverted pyramid also helps you. So in other words, it addresses all kinds of needs of readers. Okay, so this is a letter that's organized using the inverted pyramid. Okay, so the letter, the memo actually begins with, thank you for your letter of August 20, 2020, requesting for payment of the services of Mr. Jonathan Wan. We regret to inform you that we cannot process the request for 3 reasons. Okay, right then, the important information is there. We cannot process the request because of the following. And then you organize it that way. So very early on, the important, kahit yun na lang ang basahin niya, tapos na, okay na. Hi, Chini, I see the pictures of your baby in Facebook. Kamukhang kamukha ng tatay niya. Okay, mabuti na lang. Mabuti na lang, kamukha ng tatay niya. Okay, hindi, joke lang. Kamukha mo naman yung mata. Okay. Chini was my recruitment person when I was HR director of a bank. Anyway, here's another example. There's another letter organized as an inverted pyramid. We have received information that your company is in need of suppliers of COVID test kits. You would like to submit our corporate proposal for your consideration. We strongly feel that we offer terms and conditions that best meet your requirements. Okay, so there you have the important information. So the other details you write as supporting documentation. You can say first, second, third, and then you can write it chronologically already. But the important information is already there. Okay, so here's another example. As requested, we have conducted a study of the money supply in the tornado district. We are pleased to report that we find the current money supply in the area very adequate for opening a franchise store. We also did not find any adverse information that would disallow opening a franchise store in the area. Okay. So again, the most important information very, very early on. Okay. Okay, so hopefully that guides you on what's the best way to organize what you're writing. Okay, the best way talaga is inverted pyramid. In other words, start with your conclusion and spend the rest of the writing supporting that conclusion. Make sure that you bring out all the important information as early as possible in your writing, so that even if the reader stops at some point, you're already confident nakuha niya na yung important information. That, in my experience also, that is the best way to convince people. Okay, you give them an idea of what the whole writing is about, and then, in fact, even term papers are written that way. You have an executive summary that tells the reader in advance what is it that he or she is going to read. Okay, and then you can spend the rest of the writing supporting that presentation. Okay. Now a lot of people ask me, "Pa, how do you build or strengthen the habit of writing?" Kasi sabi na, minsan nakakatamad magsulat eh. Okay, the answer to that question is you just keep writing. Just keep writing. Okay. There is no shortcut to it. Okay. It's like baking. The only way to be perfect at baking is to keep on baking. That's the only way. Okay. There is no other way. The worst thing you write is still better than the best thing you didn't write. Okay. Kahit pangit na love letter, mas maganda pa rin yun kaysa walang love letter, di ba? The worst love letter that you've written in the spirit of Valentine's is still better. Kasi at least nasulat mo siya, nandyan siya, kaysa naman sa wala. So just keep on writing, you know. This is one of those skills that you get better at while you're doing it. Okay, you cannot get better at writing if you don't write. So just, you know, there was a point in my life and I would actually write every day, you know, and there were days when I don't really write anything of value. But nevertheless, it's important that you keep doing it because it helps you become a better writer. Okay, let's just review just one. It's on my watch. It's 4:58. We have time for just one grammar review, and I feel it should be modifiers. Modifiers are either adjectives, verbs, words, clauses that modify an idea. So, for example, the modifier here is the word only. So the meaning of the sentence can change depending on where you position that modifier. So when you say only John mourned the death of his brother, it means si John lang. Okay? What you're modifying is John. The second sentence is John only mourned the death of his brother. Na iba na yung sentence. Okay? Sa the placement of the modifier, saan mo siya nilalagay, okay, changes the meaning of the sentence. In this case, the meaning of the sentence has become, ang pinagluksa ni John ay yung kamatayan ng kanyang brother lang. Wala nang iba. This means that there were other deaths, but John only mourned the death of his brother. John mourned only the death of his brother. Changes the whole meaning of the sentence. And finally, John mourned the death of his only brother. Changes the whole sentence. Again, the meaning of the sentence. No, nag-iisang kapatid na siya. So where you put your modifier changes the meaning of your sentence. Okay, the placement of your modifier can also make your writing clear or unclear. Where you place your modifier can also spell the difference between clarity and lack of clarity. Sometimes, hindi mo maintindihan yung isang sinusulat, yung isang sentence, paulit-ulit mo siyang binabasa kasi mali yung pagkakalagay ng author ng modifier. So for example, let's take a look at these examples. Number one, no food and drinks will be given to students. Okay, no food and drinks will be given to students that are already expired. Okay? Ang ibig sabihin ng sentence na to, sino ang expired? Okay? 14 people who are still with me after 3 hours. Yung pinaka, okay, resilient people. Okay? And andito pa. Okay? From a high of about more than 40 viewers. Okay. No food and drinks will be given to students that are already expired. In this particular sentence, the modifier are already expired refers to whom? Sa tingin nyo? It's a misplaced modifier kasi ang ibig niyang sabihin, ano ang dapat expired? Ano ang dapat hindi expired? Students or food and drinks? Lag talaga ang internet kasi mamaya-maya dadagsa ang comments sa chat box sa tanong ko. Yan, food and drinks. Okay, sabi niya. Okay. So therefore, your modifier should be as close as possible as your modifier should be as close as possible to what they're modifying. So it should be no food and drinks that are already expired will be given to students. Okay, so make sure that your modifiers are placed correctly in your sentence. When you say, for example, the next sentence, Mart polished the expensive toy his father gave him with devotion. So, pwedeng okay, the way the sentence has been written might create the impression that the one that was with devotion is yung pagbibigay ng tatay. Di ba? But maybe what the writer actually meant was that the one that was with devotion was the polishing. Di ba? Yung pag-polish. So in this particular case, dapat ang sentence should read, Mart polished with devotion the expensive toy his father gave him. Okay? So no food and drinks that are already expired will be given to students. Okay. That's correct, siya. Mart polished with devotion. Okay. The actual travel expenses always exceed the approved budget at the newly hired management trainees. Okay. Yung of the newly hired management trainees, okay, is the placement is wrong. It should be moved to what it actually modifies. Okay, so in this particular case, what it modifies is the actual travel expenses. Okay, so the sentence should read, the actual travel expenses of the newly hired management trainees always exceed the approved budget. We have a few more examples. Okay, tucked away in the filing cabinet, the registry clerk found your baptismal records. Okay. Number 5, at the age of 4, my mother said that I could dismantle a robot. She often told me how I started a fire in school as a bedtime story. Okay. So, these are examples of wrongly placed modifiers. And I see this a lot in writings, no? In many examples of ineffective writing. Sometimes you read even policies, ordinances, where the modifiers are incorrectly placed, no, or they're misplaced. Kaya mahirap basahin kasi ang layo ng placement ng modifier dun sa minimodify nilang verbs or nouns or adverbs or whatever it is that they're modifying. Okay, so the rule is actually simple. Modifiers should be positioned as close as possible to what they're actually modifying. Okay. Um, all right. So I think well, in my screen it says that we've been chatting for 3 hours and 22 minutes. Medyo mahaba na yon. Medyo okay, so what I promise you, what I will do is I will do a separate video of grammar review, maybe, and then you can watch it in your spare time. Kasi I know it's Valentine's Day, and many of you have dates to go to, or you need to prepare dinner for your significant other, or whatever it is. And it's also a Sunday, so I will just leave you with some favorite quotes. Never stop learning because life never stops teaching. Like I said, there's always something new to learn every day. You can always learn from everybody that you interact with, even from a child, okay, even from an infant. You can even learn from animals. You can even learn from plants. If you open your mind to the possibility of learning, every experience can become a learning experience. Every encounter with a person can become a learning opportunity for you. um, I have a YouTube channel, and I'd really appreciate if you tell your friends about it. And hopefully, you'll help me in my journey. The channel is really about 5H. Now, one is HR. I'm now going to because I've discovered Stream this tool, this application, StreamYard. I'm now going to do lectures. I'm going to turn my many PowerPoints into lectures, but I will keep them short. Like separate topics. Like one principle in HR. A 15-minute presentation. And then I can probably invite some friends to help me. And so one topic for people who are interested in HR, there will always be about HR in this channel. The other one is about my many hobbies, and many of you know that I love collecting, that I'm a pack rat. So I haven't even talked about my collection of bags and my collection of pencils and my collection of shoes and my collection of jackets and all of those things. No, so yes, I have many hobbies, and it's in the last few days I've only been talking about my plants because every day that keeps a lot that keeps me busy. Like 1/4 of the day I attend to my plants because they are my current passion. But that doesn't mean I don't have other passions. So that's HR, hobbies. The third one is hacks. I like doing hacks. And there are many hacks that I want to share with you, how to do certain things better, quicker, in a more practical way. So I'll do more hacks. For example, what you can do with a drill. You can actually turn a drill into a mixer when you're baking a cake, if you know how to do it. Okay. So, for example, there are hacks in on how to do certain things better, like how to cook an egg better. Those are hacks. So that's the third H. So again, HR, hobbies, hacks, and the fourth one is house. No, so um, obviously I'm a I'm a homebody. I rarely go out, so I talk about the stuff that are in my house. Okay. And finally, health issues. Many of you know that I retired because of health reasons, and people like to be updated about what's happening to me, and in particular about my health. Hopefully, and I'm claiming it already, that I am on remission, and that the the journey is very, very successful. And hopefully, when we're able to see each other again physically, and hopefully that's very, very soon. Okay, very, very, very soon. Hopefully, the cancer journey is also done. Okay. Thank you everyone for watching today. Thank you for being with us. I hope to see you again in the next live stream. I will probably next month na yung next live stream. Maybe I'll do one on emotional resilience because it's the most popular topic that people ask me to do. But I will produce shorter videos on grammar and shorter videos on HR. And again, the videos about my garden and about my collections and about, hopefully, pwede na akong magpagupit. I can go out of the house, and that will hopefully expand the coverage of my channel. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Sha. Thank you, Elni. Thank you to everybody who's still here. Marites, Roderick, Isabel, Ilet, Chini, Angel Sai, Glyceria, Stone, Christine Paro, even if you caught the tail end of my live stream. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I'll end this broadcast already in a short while. But you can Thank you, everybody. Thank you, those who have to go to church. Um, Cecile, thank you for being with us this afternoon. Okay, thank you. I appreciate your being here. Thank you, Franz. Thank you. Uh, um, if I forgot to mention you, please, I'm still online, so please uh, drop me a note. Isabel, thank you. Thank you. Stay safe also. Please don't forget to recommend my blog, my channel to your friends. And this will be in my channel. This video will also be in my channel. So you can just ask people to. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Bye. Bye. Thank you.